Chapter 54. Yi Xian hadn't even attacked when the long-haired man suddenly strode forward with his saber in hand, and then he slashed at Yi Xian. This saber slash was bold and domineering. Yi Xian's expression turned cold. He didn't hold back this time, and the battle intent within him surged into his right arm like a tide. At the same time, he clenched his right hand into a fist. Bang! At the moment he clenched his fist, a strand of invisible force suddenly surged out from his fist, and it forcefully resisted the overbearing force released by the long-haired man. The long-haired man's eyes narrowed slightly, and there was a trace of seriousness in his eyes. Meanwhile, Yi Xian suddenly stomped his right foot. Bang! The ground instantly exploded apart. Yi Xian shot out like an arrow released from a bow. Bang! An ear-piercing explosion resounded abruptly. In an instant, both Yi Xian and the long-haired man retreated repeatedly. But it didn't take long for Yi Xian to stop. At the moment he stopped, the long-haired man stabbed his saber into the ground as well, and he relied on the force within the saber to stop himself. Yi Xian was about to continue attacking when the long-haired man suddenly said, "Both of you go in." Obviously, he'd noticed that both Yi Xian and Yi Xian were ferocious figures, and he didn't want to fight them head-on. Yi Xian was slightly stunned when he heard the long-haired man, and then he turned to look at the ninth princess. However, she wasn't where she was standing anymore. Yi Xian swiftly turned to look at the long-haired man. At this moment, the ninth princess was standing in front of the long-haired man. Hiss! Hiss! The ninth princess drew her golden saber 3 times in succession. An extremely ear-piercing and sharp sound resounded every single time she drew her saber. When the saber descended for the 3rd time, the surroundings suddenly fell silent. The ninth princess sheathed her saber and turned to look at Yi Xian. Such an ugly person doesn't deserve to live. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and walked towards the nearby entrance. Brother Yi glanced at the long-haired man. After a moment of silence, the long-haired man's body was torn into pieces, and his blood and internal organs splattered all over the ground. Brother Yi shook his head. "Brother, be more handsome in your next life." As soon as he finished speaking, he collected the corpse and hurriedly followed. He'd gained quite a lot. Right now he had 50 high-grade spirit stones and 400 gold coins. Obviously, the long-haired man had robbed quite a lot. Looking at the bulging bag on his waist, Yi Xian sighed inwardly. The fastest way to get rich was undoubtedly robbing people. He realized that he seemed to like the feeling of robbing. After they entered the cave was filled with all sorts. The cave was filled with Xiao Dao. The ninth princess furrowed her brows when she saw this. As soon, the Yi Xiao Tian sword, Yi Tian's Wu Tian, and turned to look at Princess Xiao. Xiao Xiao Long Yi Shi. The ninth princess stopped and turned to look at Yi Xian. "What's the matter?" Yi Xian was silent for a moment. He suddenly looked at one of the Xiao Dao and said, "From here." He felt that the Ling Xiao sword in his body was guiding him. The ninth princess looked at Yi Xian for a long time and asked, "Are you sure?" Yi Xian nodded. The ninth princess nodded. "Then let's go." Yi Xian trusted her because of Enlanxiao. She also trusted Yi Xian. Other than the fact that Yi Xian had fought against the Tang army alone, a large part of the reason was because of Enlanxiao. The person that Enlanxiao had taken a liking to must have a good character. The two walked towards one of the Xiao Dao. As they went down, Yi Xian's expression became more and more serious, because on the way, he had already encountered several corpses. All of them had died tragically. As the ninth princess had said, opportunities were not found, but snatched. The two walked down the Xiao Dao. After walking for about an hour, Yi Xian realized that they were already at the bottom of the mountain. "Are you sure you didn't go the wrong way?" the ninth princess suddenly asked. Yi Xian nodded. "Let's go down." The Ling Xiao sword in his body gave him the feeling that they were going down. The ninth princess nodded, and did not say anything else. She continued to follow Yi Xian down. After walking for about an hour, the two stopped. In front of them was a mountain wall. There was no way out. The ninth princess looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian walked to the mountain wall and punched. Boom! Yi Xian punched a huge hole in the mountain wall. Outside the hole, there was another world. The ninth princess walked to Yi Xian's side and looked over. Outside the hole, She could vaguely see an underground palace. And above the underground palace, there was a black sword floating. The ninth princess turned to look at Yi Xian. How did you know that the Swordmaster's true location is here? Yi Xian smiled bitterly as he took out the Ling Xiao sword. This sword told me. The ninth princess glanced at the Ling Xiao sword, then looked straight at Yi Xian. Are you stupid? If I ask you, you'll just tell me? As she spoke, she lightly patted Yi Xian's shoulder. Be more careful in the future. With that, she turned and walked towards the distant palace. Yi Xian was a little speechless. He naturally knew how to be careful. However, the ninth princess in front of him was Enlanxio's close friend. Moreover, after interacting with her, he felt that the ninth princess was someone he could make friends with, so he did not hold back. Making friends was about sincerity. If he didn't want to make friends, then so be it. Once he did, Yi Xian would definitely be sincere. This was his principle. The two of them passed through the hole and arrived in front of the palace. The palace was not particularly big. Although there was an unknown dim light illuminating the surroundings, it made the palace look even more eerie and terrifying. Yi Xian raised his head and looked at the black sword above the palace. The sword was more than 3 feet long, and its entire body was pitch black as if it was cast with ink. However, the tip of the sword was blood red, just like a dot of cinnabar. The sword was floating above the palace. Looking at the sword, Yi Xian's eyes suddenly burned with passion. His intuition told him that the grade of this sword was not low. At this moment, the ninth princess suddenly walked towards the entrance of the palace. Yi Xian suddenly grabbed her arm, and she looked at Yi Xian. Yi Xian shook his head and let go. He raised his head to look at the entrance of the palace, and he frowned. His instincts told him that there was danger. Just at this moment, Yi Xian and the ninth princess suddenly turned their heads. A man and a woman were walking towards the palace on their right. The man wore an ink-white robe, and the woman wore an ink-white dress. Both of them had extraordinary bearings. Both of them glanced at Yi Xian and the ninth princess without saying a word. Hee. At this moment, laughter suddenly resounded. In next to no time, a shadow flashed, and then a man appeared on the stone steps below the entrance of the palace. The man wore a loose black robe, and his hands were hidden in his sleeves while he wore an evil smile on his face. Tap tap. The sound of footsteps resounded. Everyone looked over towards the source of the footsteps, and they saw a woman walking over slowly from not too far away. The woman wore a cloud-colored dress that trailed behind her. Her figure was slender and graceful, and her waist was bound by a white ribbon, causing her figure to seem even more slender. Her features were extremely exquisite as well, and every single one of them seemed as if they'd been meticulously carved by the heavens. However, her peerlessly beautiful face was slightly cold and devoid of emotion. It was like a 10,000-year-old piece of ice, and it was terrifying. It's her. The ninth princess who stood by Yi Xian's side frowned. Yi Xian turned around to look at her and asked, "Who?" The ninth princess spoke indifferently. One of the two great geniuses of Kuraki Academy, Bei Chun. Kuraki Academy. Yi Xian turned around to glance at the woman called Bei Chun. She wouldn't be looking to fight me, right? Even though he wasn't afraid, it would only be disadvantageous to him if they were to fight right now. Everyone watched as Bei Chun walked over to the side, and then she closed her eyes slowly. She didn't speak a single word, but it didn't take long for her to open her eyes again, and then she gazed behind Yi Xian and the ninth princess. Yi Xian and the ninth princess turned around, and a man was walking over from not too far away from them. The man's hair was very disheveled like a chicken's nest, and he wore very simple clothes that were even riddled with holes. Moreover, he carried a pitch-black heavy axe on his back. The expressions of everyone here turned solemn when they saw this man. Even the ninth princess had a trace of seriousness in her eyes. The man glanced at everyone here, and then he walked over to the side in silence. The atmosphere in the surroundings suddenly became slightly heavy. Right at this moment, the black-robed man's gaze suddenly descended onto the ninth princess. "I presume that you're the renowned ninth princess of the Jiang Kingdom." The ninth princess spoke indifferently. "Do you have any advice for me?" The black-robed man chuckled. "I wouldn't dare. I heard that the ninth princess and the #1 genius of the Jiang Kingdom, Enlanxio, are close friends. What? That Guoshuren isn't here? The Guoshuren. The expressions of everyone here changed slightly when they heard these two words. Even the man with the heavy axe on his back turned around to look at the ninth princess. And Lanxia wasn't just renowned in the Jiang kingdom. She was extremely renowned throughout the various kingdoms. It wasn't just the various kingdoms, even some of the powers in the mountains had heard of her name. The ninth princess blinked. How do you know that she isn't here? The corners of the black-robed man's mouth gradually curled up when he heard the ninth princess, and his smile was slightly evil. It's good that she's here. Let me see if the renowned Guoshuren is worthy of his reputation, or if he possesses an undeserved reputation. She'll beat you to death. The ninth princess spoke indifferently. You're not on the same level as her. As Lanxia's close friend, perhaps no one was more clearly aware of how terrifying Lanxia was. She was the sort of person that could make monstrous geniuses feel despair. The black-robed man smiled. Is that so? Then I really look forward to it. The ninth princess paid no attention to the black-robed man. She glanced at the crowd and said, since no one wants to take the lead, then I'll do it. Everyone has arrived at the location of the Swordmaster's true body, but no one dared to be the first to enter. I presume everyone has sensed the danger. If this stalemate continues, everyone will have misgivings about each other, and no one will benefit. I have a suggestion. Let's work together first. As for when we'll end our cooperation, I believe everyone will know. What do all of you think? After a moment of silence, everyone nodded to indicate that it was pointless. The ninth princess raised her head and looked at the palace door. Who'll go first? On the stone steps, the black-robed man chuckled. Then let me start first. As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his finger, and a black object shot out from the tip of his finger. Bang! The palace door shattered with a bang. On the other hand, everyone was on their guard as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Just at this moment, a voice suddenly resounded from within the palace. You're here. Everyone was speechless. P.S. A reader almost moved me yesterday. He sent me a private message. Qinghuan, it's fine if you don't update for 2 days. Seeing this, I'm so touched that I'm about to cry. At this moment, he added, if you're beaten to death by a reader, I'll ask for donations from the readers, and we'll bury you properly. Chapter 55. You're here? Everyone was stunned and puzzled. Come in. At this moment, the voice in the hall sounded again. Everyone looked at each other, but no one dared to move, because no one expected that there would be someone else in the hall. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly walked into the hall. Everyone's gaze fell on Yi Xian, and the ninth princess hurriedly pulled him back. What are you doing? Yi Xian was stunned. What was he going to do? No. It was the Ling Xiao sword. Yi Xian's face darkened. Just now, there was a mysterious force that drove him into the hall. And this mysterious force definitely came from the Ling Xiao sword. Was the Ling Xiao sword related to the Swordmaster in front of him? Swordmaster? Thinking of this, Yi Xian suddenly came to a realization. Didn't he have a fallen Swordmaster in the prison pagoda? Could it be related to the Swordmaster? At this moment, the black-robed man suddenly said, the timid will starve to death, and the bold will die. I'll go first. With that, his entire body turned into a wisp of black smoke and floated in. Seeing that the black-robed man was the first to enter, the surrounding people also rushed in. Yi Xian and the ninth princess hurriedly walked in as well. When everyone entered the palace, they were all shocked. The palace was filled with wooden statues of men. At a glance, there were close to 1,000 of them. These statues all had the same face. From the appearance, it should be a youth, and on the waists of these statues, there was a wooden sword. When he saw these wooden swords, Yi Xian was stunned on the spot. Ling Xiao sword. These wooden swords were exactly the same as the Ling Xiao sword. Most importantly, the two words Ling Xiao were engraved on the bodies of these wooden swords. What the hell was this? Yi Xian was dumbfounded. At this moment, everyone suddenly turned their heads to look not far away. In the corner of the hall, a long-haired woman was squatting on the ground and carving a piece of wood. The woman was squatting on the ground. The long dress she wore had long lost its original appearance. Her hair was also extremely long, directly touching the ground, and her long hair was snow white. Little by little, she carved the wood in front of her very carefully and seriously. The expressions of everyone here instantly became vigilant when they saw this woman. Right at this moment, the long-haired woman suddenly said, "If you're here to search for treasures, you can go to the small bamboo house behind this hall. There are some things that he once left behind there." Everyone looked at each other when they heard the long-haired woman's words. Then the man in the black robe and others flashed out of the hall. The 9th princess was going to leave as well. However, she stopped when she saw Yi Xian did not intend to leave. "You're not leaving?" Yi Xian glanced at her and said, "You go. I have something to ask her." The 9th princess glanced at Yi Xian. "Be careful." With that, she turned around and left the hall. Earth-ranked martial technique. At the moment when the 9th princess went out, a shocked voice came from the back of the palace. In the blink of an eye, countless sounds of fighting could be heard. Yi Xian paid no attention to what was happening outside, and he walked over to the long-haired woman. She stopped, turned around, glanced at Yi Xian, and shook her head slightly. "You're not him." As soon as she finished speaking, she continued carving the wood in front of her. Yi Xian opened his right hand, and the firmament spirit sword appeared in his palm. The long-haired woman stopped. A short while later, she continued carving the wood in front of her. The true essence of this sword has dispersed, and only a trace of its spirit remains. "Is he dead?" Yi Xian fell silent. At this moment, he was sure that the Swordmaster on the first level of the Pagoda of Purgatory was the person who had carved the statue of this long-haired woman. Meanwhile, the firmament spirit sword suddenly trembled slightly, and then it descended in front of the long-haired woman. The long-haired woman's hand stiffened in midair. After a very long time, she put down the sculpture in her hand and took the firmament spirit sword lightly. As she gazed at it, she suddenly smiled. However, as she smiled, 2 streams of clear liquid dripped onto the firmament spirit sword. Yi Xian was silent, not knowing what to say. After a while, the long-haired woman said softly, "This sword was forged by me for him back then." Yi Xian looked at the long-haired woman. The long-haired woman gently stroked the firmament spirit sword. "That year he told me to wait for him here, and that he would definitely come back. I waited and waited until my hair turned white, but he still did not come back. It's good that he did not come back. In the end there was a thought, and now this thought is gone." As she said that, she turned to look at Yi Xian. "Are you his disciple?" Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, "You can say that." The long-haired woman slowly stood up. She tidied up her clothes and hair, and then looked at Yi Xian. "Although he did not give me any status. Strictly speaking, I am not his wife, but are you willing to call me mistress?" Yi Xian was silent for a moment, and then he bowed deeply. "Mistress." The long-haired woman smiled. However, there were tears in her eyes. She gently stroked Yi Xian's cheeks. "You are the same as him back then, a handsome young man, and also a swordsman. In the future, if there is someone you like, don't let him down." Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then said, "Mistress, after waiting for so many years, have you ever regretted it?" The long-haired woman shook her head and smiled. "If you really like someone, even if you give up everything for him and there is no result, you will not regret it." Yi Xian was silent. The long-haired woman turned and swept her gaze over the wooden figures, her eyes rippling, as if she was recalling the past. After a moment, she gently stroked a wooden statue in front of her. "Actually, I know he should have forgotten me. Otherwise, with his strength, he would not have been here for more than 4 hours, no matter where he is in the firmament world. But it's all right, I will remember him." As she said that, she suddenly opened her right palm. In the next moment, the black sword floating above the palace directly turned into a black sword light and entered the palace. The black sword landed steadily in the long-haired woman's palm. The long-haired woman turned to look at Yi Xian. "This sword is called the Nether Spirit Sword. Because I did not nurture it, it fell from a real sword to a spiritual sword. This sword is a pair with the Nether Spirit Sword. The 2 swords can be combined or separated. If they are combined, the 2 swords can be combined into one. And the limit is the Heavenly Sword, which is above the real sword. The swords need to be nurtured by yourself, and you need to constantly deepen the compatibility between you and them. In the future, how much they can grow will depend on you. As she said that, she handed the Nether Spirit Sword and the Nether Spirit Sword to Yi Xian. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then took the two swords. Holding the two swords, he immediately felt some kind of connection between them. The long-haired woman smiled. "Let's go." Yi Xian looked at the long-haired woman. "Mistress, will you go with me?" The long-haired woman shook her head. "I got to know him here, and it should end here." As she said that, she gently rubbed Yi Xian's head. "In the future, if you have someone you like, you must remember to not break your promise." Yi Xian did not try to persuade her. He bowed deeply to the long-haired woman, and then turned to leave the palace. Within the palace, the long-haired woman turned to look at the statue in front of her. She gently hugged the wooden statue, and then leaned her head on its shoulder. She slowly closed her eyes and did not open them again. Outside the palace, Yi Xian turned and bowed again. He felt quite complicated. Wait. He did not know how long the woman in the palace had waited for the Swordmaster, but he was certain that she had waited for a very, very long time. Had the Swordmaster been delayed by something? Or had he really forgotten about the woman in the palace? He did not want to think too much about it. At this moment, there were sounds of fighting coming from the back of the palace. Yi Xian was shocked. He quickly kept his two swords, and then ran to the back of the palace. At this moment, there were many people gathered at the back of the palace. Obviously, the fight here had attracted people from other places. Yi Xian looked around. Suddenly, a figure landed in front of him. It was the 9th princess. Just as Yi Xian was about to speak, the 9th princess pulled his arm and ran out. "Don't let them escape. That Earth upper grade martial skill is in that woman's hands." Behind them, Yi Xian heard someone shouting angrily. Then he felt a few people attacking them from behind. At the same time, a man and a woman suddenly appeared in front of them. These two people were the man and woman who had appeared at the beginning. The man looked at the 9th princess coldly. "Leave it behind." The 9th princess grinned. "Come and get it." The man's right foot touched the ground lightly. Gotcha. The ground cracked in an instant. At the same time, he turned into a shadow and charged at the 9th princess. The corners of the 9th princess' mouth curled up into a ferocious smile. She held the golden saber in her right hand and slashed forward. Swish. A golden saber radiance flashed. Bang. Along with an explosion, the 9th princess and the man retreated rapidly. At this moment, some people ran over and surrounded Yi Xian and the 9th princess. The 9th princess' face sank when she saw this. An Earth upper grade martial skill. Its value was unimaginable. After all, there might not be more than 10 Earth upper grade martial skills in the entire Jiang country. Even the Jiang country's royal family did not have an Earth upper grade martial skill. Only ancient forces like the Drunken Immortal Inn and Kuraki Academy might have one. Naturally, the 9th princess would not give up such a precious martial skill so easily. Opposite Yi Xian and the 9th princess, the man stared at the 9th princess. "Leave the martial skill and you can leave." The people in the surroundings stared at the 9th princess. Obviously, they were afraid of the 9th princess' strength and didn't dare attack rashly. The 9th princess who stood by Yi Xian's side turned to glance at him. "What do you think?" "What do I think?" Yi Xian asked softly. "How much can that Earth upper grade martial skill be sold for?" The 9th princess thought for a moment and said, "At least 50 million gold coins. Moreover, there's no market for it." 50 million. Yi Xian's eyelids twitched, and he turned to glance at the 9th princess. "What else can I think? Of course, I'll fight to the death." As soon as he finished speaking, he clenched his fists tightly, and a strand of terrifying battle intent swept out from within him. Subsequently, he charged towards the man nearby, as if he was on steroids. Chapter 56. Needless to say, after Yi Xian released his battle intent, the imposing aura and pressure he emanated were extremely terrifying. Battle intent. In the Azure Prefecture, anyone who could comprehend intent could be considered as a monstrous genius. When Yi Xian arrived a few meters away from the man, he suddenly smashed his fist towards the man. Fist crush. This punch contained both aura and intent. As soon as he punched out, the sound of air exploding resounded. The man's eyes narrowed slightly as he stood before Yi Xian. He didn't dare act carelessly, and he suddenly clenched his right fist and smashed it towards the ground. Bang! The ground exploded apart, and countless rocks shot into the sky like sharp arrows that enveloped Yi Xian. Bang! Countless rocks were directly transformed into powder. And then Yi Xian appeared before the man and smashed his fist down. Simple, direct, and violent. The fist hadn't even arrived, but its aura caused the ground behind the man to crack apart. The man's pupils constricted slightly. He didn't take Yi Xian's punch head-on. Instead, he stomped his right foot on the ground and retreated by over 30 meters, increasing the distance between him and Yi Xian. Yi Xian didn't attack again, and he retreated to the 9th princess's side instead. He glanced coldly at the surroundings, and the battle intent within him surged out like tidewater. Who else? Everyone looked at Yi Xian with extremely solemn expressions. The man and woman in the distance had solemn expressions in their eyes as well. Especially the man. After he fought Yi Xian just now, the strength of Yi Xian's fist had exceeded his expectations. The 9th princess glanced at Yi Xian, and she was in high spirits. Kill them. As she spoke, she drew her golden saber. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly grabbed her arm and ran. He ran extremely quickly, and he was over 100 meters away in the blink of an eye. On the spot, everyone was dumbfounded. Ran away? Didn't they want to fight? Everyone looked at each other. And it took them a few breaths of time to recover from their shock. We've been fooled. Someone shouted in anger. Soon, a group of people went after Yi Xian, and the 9th princess in the distance again. Among them, the man and woman were the fastest, taking the lead. Yi Xian pulled the 9th princess along as he ran. His speed was relatively fast. After all, he had a strong physique. While running, the 9th princess suddenly asked, "Aren't we going to fight?" Yi Xian rolled his eyes. "There are so many of them. We can't beat them." "So you're saying that you were just pretending to be powerful?" Yi Xian said with a straight face. "This is called a strategic retreat." The 9th princess smirked. "What a strategic retreat. But can you let go of my hand?" Hearing this, Yi Xian blushed and quickly let go of the 9th princess' arm. Both of them were extremely swift, and it didn't take long for them to escape from the exit. However, their expressions changed drastically the moment they stepped out of the exit. Then, a shadow appeared on the left of the 9th princess like a ghost, and a cold ray of light slashed towards the 9th princess' chest. The cold radiance was as fast as lightning. At this critical moment, Yi Xian was shocked. He instinctively pulled the 9th princess and used his body to collide with the cold radiance. Swoosh! Bang! A figure was directly knocked away by Yi Xian's body. However, blood splattered from Yi Xian's chest. The 9th princess glanced at the wound on Yi Xian's chest and was stunned. Yi Xian did not care about the wound on his chest. He glanced coldly at the person opposite him. He knew the person who attacked him. It was the black-robed man in front of the palace. The black-robed man looked at Yi Xian and grinned hideously. A hero saving a damsel in distress? You. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly charged at the black-robed man. Swoosh! The sound of air being torn apart resounded. It was the sound of flesh tearing through the air. The black-robed man's expression grew even more ferocious when he saw Yi Xian charge at him. Suddenly, he raised his hands that were hidden in his sleeves. Swish! Swish! 2 rays of black light shot out. They were 2 fine arrows. Yi Xian did not dodge and allowed the arrows to pierce his chest. The arrows pierced around an inch into Yi Xian's body before they stopped. The black-robed man's expression changed drastically when he witnessed this scene. And he'd forgotten about his next move, because he hadn't expected that Yi Xian would not dodge at all. Meanwhile, Yi Xian smashed his fist towards him. Yi Xian had used all his strength in this punch. The black-robed man's black robe was torn apart by the aura it emanated. The black-robed man's expression changed drastically. It was too late for him to dodge at this moment, so he could only raise his arms to block Yi Xian's fist. Bang! Crack! The black-robed man's arms were directly fractured by Yi Xian's punch. and the black-robed man himself was sent flying into a mountain wall more than 100 feet away. The black-robed man was just about to get up when Yi Xian appeared in front of him. The black-robed man was horrified and he hurriedly said, "I'm a prince of the Ning kingdom. If you..." Right at this moment, Yi Xian spoke coldly. "A prince of the Ning kingdom? I don't know you." As soon as he finished speaking, he suddenly kicked the black-robed man's head. Bang! The black-robed man's head flew into the air, and blood sprayed out like a fountain. Yi Xian grabbed the pouch on the black-robed man's waist, and then he retreated to the 9th princess side. Meanwhile, the man and woman from before had caught up to them. Yi Xian didn't hesitate at all, and he pulled the 9th princess along as he turned around and ran. The man and woman didn't give up, and they chased after Yi Xian and the 9th princess. Moreover, there were another 5 or 6 people behind them. Yi Xian and the 9th princess ran madly all along the way, and fresh blood flowed ceaselessly from Yi Xian's chest. Even though his body was strong, it wasn't invincible. The black-robed man's cultivation was at least at the ascendant realm, and it was already extremely terrifying that he was able to resist the man's full force attack with his body. If an ordinary person was hit by that attack, their body would have been split into 2. They hadn't run for long when Yi Xian and the 9th princess stopped once more. A woman was standing not too far away from them. Bei Chen. Both Yi Xian and the 9th princess faces sank when they saw Bei Chen. Bei Chen glanced at the 9th princess and Yi Xian, and then she didn't waste her breath. A moment later, her entire body suddenly became illusory. Yi Xian was about to attack when he witnessed this scene. However, the 9th princess pulled him behind her, and then she took a swift step forward and drew her saber. Wind rend. As soon as her saber descended, a strand of light flashed. Hiss. A sharp and ear-piercing sound resounded, and it was the sound of the saber energy tearing through the air. Moreover, a strand of green light enveloped the saber energy in front of the 9th princess. A moment of silence ensued. Bang! An invisible wave of energy suddenly erupted. The 9th princess retreated to Yi Xian's side while Bei Chen stopped around 10 m away from Yi Xian and the 9th princess. Moreover, countless bottomless rifts had appeared on the ground between them. Bei Chen sized up the 9th princess. "Everyone says that you're a genius, commander, but I never imagined that your saber technique would be so sharp as well. How surprising." The 9th princess glanced at Bei Chen. "You've obtained something else. After all, greed can kill you." Bei Chen chuckled. "I'm very tempted by a high-grade earth-rank martial technique." Meanwhile, the people behind Yi Xian and the 9th princess had caught up to them. At this moment, Yi Xian and the 9th princess faces had turned completely gloomy. The 9th princess glanced at Yi Xian and asked, "What do you think?" Yi Xian glanced at Bei Chen and the man and woman who stood not too far away from him. He thought for a moment and said, "I think that all of us can sit down and have a chat. I'm very willing to communicate with all of you." As he spoke, he glanced at Bei Chen and the others. "What do all of you think?" All of them were speechless. The 9th princess glanced at Yi Xian, and then she gave him a thumbs up. "I'm impressed." Bei Chen sized up Yi Xian. "I think there might be something wrong with your head." Yi Xian was speechless. Meanwhile, Bei Chen walked slowly towards Yi Xian and the 9th princess, and the others behind Yi Xian and the 9th princess were walking towards them as well. Obviously, Bei Chen, the man, the woman, and the others had come to an agreement to deal with the 2 of them first. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed slightly, and the divine firmament sword within him started to tremble. Right at this moment, the 9th princess suddenly soared into the sky. Everyone watched as she drew the golden saber from her waist, and then she held it with both hands. After that, strands of golden energy and saber intent swept out incessantly from within her. Bang! A strand of monstrous pressure appeared out of thin air. Even Yi Xian's expression changed when this pressure appeared because it was truly too strong, and it almost pressed him to the ground. Fortunately, after he released his battle intent, he felt much better. An earth-rank martial technique. Suddenly, Bei Chen's eyes narrowed slightly. "You're only at the Ascension realm, yet you actually dared to execute an earth-rank martial technique." As she spoke, she started to move backwards slowly. An earth-rank martial technique. The expressions of everyone in the surroundings changed when they heard this. Such a martial technique could be said to contain some of the might of the heavens and the earth. All of them started to move backwards. Right at this moment, the ninth princess suddenly flashed down from midair. In the next moment, numerous afterimages flashed through the surroundings. At the same time, countless rays of golden light erupted like scorching suns. Bei Chen's pupils constricted when the ninth princess descended to the ground. She pressed her palm forward lightly, and then a strand of terrifying green energy suddenly erupted from the center of her palm. However, the green energy had just come into contact with the golden rays of light, and instantly exploded apart. Bei Chen's expression changed drastically when she witnessed this scene, and she retreated like a madman. At the same time, she attacked repeatedly to ceaselessly resist the golden rays of light that were descending towards her. On the other side, the man and woman were retreating repeatedly as well. While the others by their side were retreating as well, they weren't as swift as them. Moreover, two of them were even slashed into two at the waist by the golden rays of light. At this moment, the ground had even started to crack apart. For a time, the ninth princess was invincible. Yi Xian was flabbergasted by this scene. A few breaths of time passed before the ninth princess suddenly appeared in front of him, and Yi Xian spoke with slight excitement. Amazing! Truly amazing! Come. Another one. Kill them. The ninth princess glanced at Yi Xian, and then her body slumped down into Yi Xian's arms. She rested her head on Yi Xian's shoulder. I can't. Big brother, can we make a strategic retreat for now? Yi Xian was speechless. P.S. It's Li Dong, so remember to get some clothes. Chapter 57. Run. Yi Xian was not stupid. He knew that the ninth princess must have suffered a backlash when she used the earth-rank martial skill. Without thinking too much, Yi Xian grabbed the ninth princess by the waist and carried her on his back. Then he turned around and ran. Around 15 minutes later, the battlefield gradually returned to its original state of tranquility. Bei Chen looked at her right hand. There were a few bloody scratches on it. After a moment of silence, she suddenly tapped the ground with the tip of her foot and floated toward the place where Yi Xian and the ninth princess had disappeared. On the other side, the man, woman, and two other people also hurriedly chased after them. They could naturally see that the ninth princess had suffered a backlash after using the earth-rank martial skill. At this moment, she was at her weakest, so they naturally would not let go of this opportunity. A high-grade earth-rank martial skill. This martial skill could be used as a family heirloom for many families and factions. Not only that, but with this high-grade earth-rank martial skill, it could completely increase the strength of a faction by a large margin. At the same cultivation level, most of the time, it was a battle of martial skills and treasures. Apart from Bei Chen and the others, after Yi Xian and the ninth princess ran away, some other people heard the commotion and chased after them. Yi Xian carried the ninth princess on his back and ran wildly. He did not run in the direction of Two World City, but in the boundless mountain range. After some time, Yi Xian arrived at a natural waterfall with the ninth princess on his back. The waterfall was dozens of feet wide, and the water was very rapid. After a moment of silence, Yi Xian put the ninth princess on the ground gently. Then he took off his shoes and ran in the other direction on the tip of his toes. About a while later he ran back. When he came back, he also walked on the tip of his toes. Therefore there were no footprints behind him. He looked around, then carried the ninth princess and ran toward a natural pit at the edge of the waterfall. The pit was at the edge of the waterfall. If one looked from the front, it would be difficult to see the location of the pit, because of the waterfall. Yi Xian carried the ninth princess and hid in the pit. The pit was not big and could fit two people. After about a quarter of an hour, Yi Xian heard the sound of wind breaking outside. Yi Xian felt a chill in his heart as he put on a vigilant expression. The Lingxiao sword in his body was already accumulating power, ready to strike at any moment. At this moment, the person outside had already turned around and left. Upon seeing this, Yi Xian immediately heaved a sigh of relief. He lowered his head and looked at the ninth princess in his arms. At this moment, the ninth princess's face was pale, and there were traces of blood at the corner of her mouth. She looked extremely weak. At this moment, she had no combat ability at all. Yi Xian sighed in a low voice. This woman was really putting her life on the line for that high-grade Earth-rank martial skill. You're very smart. At this moment, the ninth princess suddenly opened her eyes. He didn't run towards Two World City. Yi Xian shook his head. How would he dare to run to Two World City? Everyone knew that it was the ninth princess's base camp. If he ran there, he would definitely die. The ninth princess suddenly said, I need to rest for 2 days. 2 days. Yi Xian's heart instantly sank. It would be fine if he wasn't discovered in 2 days. But once he was discovered, then he would be in big trouble. After a while, the atmosphere suddenly became slightly awkward. Because Yi Xian carried the ninth princess in, and was drenched by the waterfall, the ninth princess was completely drenched at this moment. Moreover, she was wearing a silk dress, so the water made her dress stick tightly to her body. As a result, the originally protruding part became even more protruding. Moreover, the ninth princess was in Yi Xian's arms, and her protruding part just happened to be against a certain part of him. This made Yi Xian feel extremely awkward. Yi Xian wanted to move a little and move away, but this movement was even more terrible. That soft protruding part was against a certain part of him. As soon as he moved and the two of them came into contact, a certain part of him instantly reacted violently. The atmosphere became even more awkward. The ninth princess just stared at Yi Xian, causing Yi Xian's scalp to go numb. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. Sorry, I didn't mean to be frivolous. In all fairness, he did not mean to be frivolous, but this was a human's instinct and most of the time, he could not control it. Although he was a swordsman was also a human. Moreover, he was a man, especially a man who had basically never been in contact with a woman. This was the first time he was so close to a woman, so it was normal for some parts of him to have some primitive impulses. It would be abnormal if he did not have any impulses. The ninth princess slowly closed her eyes. She did not speak, nor did she have anything to say. Just like that, the two of them maintained that position for nearly an hour. When the sky turned dark, Yi Xian carried the ninth princess out of the small pit. He still did not run towards Two World City, but instead he ran towards Swordmaster's cave abode. The most dangerous place was often the safest place. Although it was pitch black, Yi Xian had no trouble running while carrying the ninth princess. After all, he spent most of his time in Green City in the mountains. After about half an hour, Yi Xian carried the ninth princess back to the underground palace. Instead of entering the palace, Yi Xian carried the ninth princess to a small bamboo house at the back of the palace. At this time, the bamboo house had been ransacked, leaving only a few simple tables, chairs, and beds. Yi Xian gently placed the ninth princess on the bamboo bed, took off his robe and covered her body. Have a good rest, I'll guard outside. After saying that, he turned around and left the bamboo house. The ninth princess glanced at Yi Xian's back without saying a word. Outside the bamboo house, Yi Xian sat cross-legged on the ground and took out a figurine. The figurine was a little girl who looked 70 to 80% similar to Yi Ling. This was the figurine that he had carved himself. In fact, there was another figurine, which was himself. However, it was in Yi Ling's hands. A faint smile appeared on Yi Xian's face as he looked at the figurine in his hands. As though he had thought of something, he took out another figurine. This figurine looked very similar to Enlancio. Looking at the two figurines in his hands, Yi Xian's smile became even more radiant. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly lifted his head. Not far from him, a man was walking towards him. This person was the man with hair that resembled a chicken's nest. He was dressed in plain clothes and carried an eye-catching black axe on his back. Yi Xian stood up. The man stopped not far away from Yi Xian. He glanced at the small bamboo house, and then walked towards it. Yi Xian stood in front of the man. The man did not waste any time and threw a punch. When the punch was thrown, a terrifying force gushed out like a river bursting through a dam. Crack! The blue stone floorboards around them cracked into powder at this moment. Yi Xian was expressionless as he threw a punch as well. Fist collapse. With this punch, a wave of fist aura and battle intent surged out from his fist. Boom! With a deafening explosion, the man and Yi Xian retreated rapidly. Yi Xian retreated to the door of the bamboo house while the man retreated 60 to 70 feet. The ground in front of them was already a mess. The man glanced at Yi Xian. Battle intent. Fist aura. Quasi-martial Dao master. Yi Xian slowly clenched his fist. In an instant, a wave of fist aura enveloped the man not far away. I'm not confident that I can kill you, but I'm confident that I can cripple you. If you attack, you'll die in someone else's hands even if you obtain that superior grade earth rank martial technique. Cripple me? The man removed the enormous axe from his back. I want to give it a try. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly opened his palm. In the next moment, a sword appeared at the center of his palm. And in the blink of an eye, numerous rays of light surged out incessantly from Ling Xiao's sword. A single strike to decide life and death. In the distance, the man's eyes narrowed slightly, and a serious expression appeared in his eyes for the first time. Yi Xian grinned as he gazed at the man with his sword in hand. Come and give it a try. All of a sudden, the man grabbed the giant axe and threw it at Yi Xian. Hiss. The enormous axe tore through the sky, and a long white streak appeared in the sky. The formidable force contained within the enormous axe even caused the ground in the surroundings to shatter incessantly. At this moment, Yi Xian also drew his sword out. A ray of light flashed through the battlefield. A single strike to decide life and death. In next to no time, the sword stabbed the enormous axe. Bang! The enormous axe shook violently, and then traces of cracks appeared on it in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the enormous axe was blasted flying. The man stretched out his right hand and grabbed the enormous axe. Bang! The man, along with his axe, retreated a full 100 feet. The man glanced at his right hand, and the space between his thumb and forefinger had split open while blood was seeping out incessantly. The man raised his head to gaze at Yi Xian, who stood in the distance. Master Swordsman. Battle intent and dual cultivation in the sword and martial arts. Yi Xian pondered deeply for a moment and said, How about you do me a favor? A favor? The man's eyes narrowed slightly, and he gazed at Yi Xian for a long time. In the end, he put the enormous axe away and said, The profound sect of the Great Cloud Empire, Sworn Swordsman, remember that you owe me a favor. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Yi Xian was stunned when he saw the man called Zhuan leave. Did that fellow really do me a favor? I was just trying to buy time. In fact, Yi Xian was not aware of Dao Yi's influence as a swordsman. Countless forces would want to rope in a quasi-sword Dao Grandmaster. For some individuals, having a quasi-sword Dao Grandmaster as a friend would bring them endless benefits. Most of the time, friends were extremely important when one was out in the world. As for Yi Xian, not only was he a quasi-sword Dao Grandmaster, but he was also a quasi-martial Dao Grandmaster. His influence was on par with an earth-level martial arts technique. Most importantly, Zhuan was not fully confident that he could defeat Yi Xian. Moreover, if he chose to fight, it would only result in a lose-lose situation. Therefore, he decisively gave up on the earth-level martial arts technique and befriended Yi Xian. Zhuan left without any hesitation and disappeared from Yi Xian's sight in the blink of an eye. Seeing that Zhuan had left, Yi Xian touched his chin and said softly, So I'm quite influential. It seems that I've seriously underestimated my charm. At that moment, he suddenly raised his head and looked not far away. There, a woman was slowly walking toward him. Seeing the woman, Yi Xian's face sank. Beichen. It's this woman again. Beichen sized up Yi Xian. The most dangerous place is the safest place. That's not a bad idea. Unfortunately, you've underestimated the charm of an earth-level martial arts technique. Some of the higher-ups are already green with envy. Yi Xian held his sword and walked toward Beichen. How about you do me a favor? A favor? Beichen chuckled. Are you still dreaming? Chapter 58. Beichen walked slowly towards Yi Xian. An array of green light flickered in her right palm. She naturally wouldn't underestimate Yi Xian. Or it should be said that she wouldn't underestimate anyone now that she was here. She would fight with all her might no matter who it was. Yi Xian was quite depressed as he watched Beichen walk over. Why doesn't this fellow know what's good for him? He didn't think too much about it, and he suddenly floated forward with his sword in hand. Since we can't make peace, then we'll fight. That was Yi Xian's attitude. The corners of Bei Chen's mouth curled up slightly when she saw Yi Xian attack, and then her body suddenly became ethereal. In the next moment, an afterimage flashed by. Bang! An explosion resounded in the blink of an eye, and then Yi Xian retreated to the entrance of the bamboo house. However, Bei Chen didn't move at all. Yi Xian tightened his grip on Ling Xiao's sword with his right hand while a wisp of a solemn expression appeared in his eyes. She's extraordinarily strong. There was a trace of seriousness in Bei Chen's eyes as well as she stood before Yi Xian. An expert's ability was obvious as soon as they attacked. Her battle with Yi Xian allowed her to have a rough understanding of Yi Xian's strength. Bei Chen was about to attack again when the ninth princess suddenly walked out from the bamboo house. Bei Chen stopped moving while Yi Xian was stunned. The ninth princess walked over to Yi Xian's side, and then she gazed coldly at Bei Chen. Do you want to fight too by yourself? As soon as she finished speaking, she placed her right hand on the golden saber on her waist. The golden saber trembled slightly, and then a ray of light flashed out. Bei Chen smiled faintly. You executed an earth-ranked martial technique with your ascending realm cultivation. Your body will definitely suffer a backlash. You will need at least 2 days to recover from this backlash. Right now, you are merely using your connections to intimidate others. As soon as she finished speaking, her figure floated towards the ninth princess and Yi Xian. She was very decisive. Yi Xian tapped the ground lightly with the tip of his foot when he saw Bei Chen attack, and then his figure shot forward swiftly. However, this attack was directly stopped by Bei Chen's palm, and there was a faint green glow at the center of her palm. At this moment, Yi Xian lightly slid his sword. The sword slid at a strange angle, aiming for Bei Chen's wrist. However, Bei Chen's reflexes were faster. She retracted her hand and dodged the attack. But in the next moment, Yi Xian slashed at Bei Chen with a diagonal slash. Chi. On the blade of the sword light flashed. Bei Chen Chao took a step back, and was just able to dodge the attack. Right at this moment, a golden saber suddenly slashed down from above her head. Bei Chen's pupils constricted, and she slammed her hands down. Boom. A green light swept out from her body. Bang. As the golden saber light fell, the green light instantly shattered, but Bei Chen had already retreated 100 feet behind him. Bei Chen stared fixedly at the ninth princess in the distance. How dare you attack me? The ninth princess laughed coldly. I'm a disciple of the imperial family after all. Don't I have some special methods to protect myself? Bei Chen frowned when she heard this. But it didn't take long for her brows to relax and she smiled. Is that so? Then let me see how many more attacks you can make. As soon as she finished speaking, she was about to attack again. But at this moment, the ninth princess suddenly leaped up into the air, and her right hand tightly gripped the golden saber at her waist. In the next moment, a monstrous pressure swept out from her body. An earth-rank martial technique. Bei Chen's pupils constricted when she saw this. A moment later, she turned around and flashed a few times before vanishing in front of Yi Xian and the ninth princess. Obviously, she didn't want to go head-on against the ninth princess's earth-rank martial technique. Although she wasn't very afraid, if she and the ninth princess were to fight and both of them were injured, then it would only benefit others. Many people were waiting to reap the benefits. The ninth princess stopped in midair when she saw Bei Chen retreat, and she landed firmly beside Yi Xian. Go in. Yi Xian nodded, and then he followed the ninth princess into the bamboo house. As soon as they entered the house, the ninth princess fell backwards. Yi Xian was shocked, and he hurriedly supported her. At this moment, blood was flowing incessantly from the corner of the ninth princess's mouth. Yi Xian hurriedly carried the ninth princess to the bed. As he looked at the ninth princess who was still bleeding, Yi Xian said in a low voice, "Is an earth-rank martial technique really more important than your life?" The ninth princess shook her head. "You don't understand," Yi Xian said in a low voice. "I only know that you'll die if this goes on." The ninth princess looked at Yi Xian. "Do you know what kind of situation the kingdom of Jiang is in right now?" Yi Xian was silent. The ninth princess slowly closed her eyes. In the country there are many aristocratic families. These aristocratic families have their own camps, and their children only know about the family, not the country. Above the aristocratic families, there are the two behemoths, the drunken immortal building and the Kuraki Academy. These two behemoths do not hesitate to recruit talents from the country. And those who join these two forces, how many of them are willing to fight for the country? At this point, she opened her eyes and looked at Yi Xian. Do you know why the kingdom of Jiang doesn't dare to go to war with the Tang Empire? It's because we can't unite the country. Once the war starts, we can't mobilize those people. And once the kingdom of Jiang is destroyed, yes, the children of the Kuraki Academy and the aristocratic families will be fine. But what about the ordinary people? Will the Kuraki Academy, the aristocratic families, and the drunken immortal building be willing to protect those ordinary people? Yi Xian sighed and was about to speak, but the ninth princess continued. Most of the profitable industries in the country are in the hands of the drunken immortal building. They almost monopolize all industries, so the national treasury is in a state of loss all year round. With this earth-level upper-grade martial skill, as long as it is auctioned, it can maintain the national treasury for at least 3 years. At this point, she shook her head slightly and said, I have tens of thousands of soldiers under my command, and they haven't received their pay for 2 months. Yi Xian glanced at the ninth princess. Is that why you came here? The ninth princess said indifferently, what else? Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, I know you have your difficulties, but have you ever thought that there is hope for everything as long as people are alive? If people are dead, everything is nonsense. As he spoke, he glanced outside the bamboo house. That woman definitely hasn't left. Not only has she not left, but there are definitely more people coming here. Furthermore, that woman just said that some of the big shots above were envious of this earth-ranked martial technique. In this case, whoever takes this earth-level upper-grade martial skill will be targeted. The ninth princess closed her eyes slowly. You can leave now. Yi Xian frowned and kept silent for a long time. In the end, his expression turned cold and he looked at the ninth princess. Take out that earth-level upper-grade martial skill. Hearing this, the ninth princess opened her eyes and looked at Yi Xian with a trace of disbelief. Yi Xian's expression turned even colder. Hand it over. The ninth princess looked at Yi Xian for a long time. In the end, she laughed at herself. Looks like I underestimated the charm of an earth-level martial skill. However, I never expected that both of us would misjudge it. As soon as she finished speaking, her jade-like fingers moved slightly. Soon, a black scroll fell in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian glanced at the black scroll. It was extremely smooth, and he didn't know what material it was made of. He opened it and saw a few large words. Earth-level upper-grade finger of Nirvana. Without looking at it any further, Yi Xian kept the scroll and walked out of the bamboo house. The ninth princess looked at Yi Xian coldly and didn't say a word. After a while, she took out a black stone. She held the black stone in her hand, and a strand of celestial qi flowed into it. Then she slowly closed her eyes. Shaoan, this person can't be trusted. In a mountain range 1,000 miles away, a woman in a snow-white robe stopped. She took out a pitch-black stone and stared at it for a long, long time. Then she suddenly turned around. Miss, you have an appointment with the demon marshal. Someone shouted from behind. However, the woman in white didn't even turn around. After Yi Xian left the bamboo house, he jumped a few times and arrived above the palace. He looked around and then looked at the scroll in his hand and laughed. I finally got it. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure flashed and floated down into the distance. It's that earth-level martial skill. Someone said in the darkness, and it didn't take long for numerous afterimages to chase after Yi Xian. The person in the lead was Bei Qin. Besides Bei Qin, there was also the man and woman from before. Both of them were extremely strong, and even Bei Qin was extremely fearful of them. Yi Xian was extremely swift, and he charged out of the Swordmaster's abode in the blink of an eye. After that, he fled deep into the forest while a group of people were chasing after him madly. As for the ninth princess, no one paid any attention to her anymore. Everyone's gazes were on Yi Xian because the earth-level martial skill was in Yi Xian's possession. Yi Xian ran madly all the way. and he specifically went through dense forests and complicated terrain. That was why Bei Chun and the others didn't catch up to him at the first possible moment. Moreover, he used the complicated terrain to put some distance between himself and Bei Chun and the others. However, Bei Chun and the others clearly had no intention of giving up, and they pursued him madly all the way. On the other hand, Yi Xian was like an agile monkey that ceaselessly jumped about in the boundless mountain range. He didn't fight, and his first reaction upon encountering others was to run. Just like that, he ran, and night had finally arrived. Yi Xian smiled when night descended. It was so dark that one couldn't even see their own fingers. However, it wasn't difficult for Yi Xian at all because he was already used to such nights in the mountains. On the other hand, Bei Chun and the others had slightly solemn expressions on their faces. Even though most of them had tempered themselves in the mountain range, they hadn't fought and killed practically all year round like Yi Xian. So when night descended, Bei Chun and the others were slightly apprehensive. This apprehension wasn't just because of Yi Xian. It was also because of the apprehension they had towards each other. One had to know that backstabbing was a common occurrence in the outside world. In the night, Yi Xian hid in a dense old tree. He took out a small person that looked like Yi Ling and smiled. "I'll be back soon." "I'm afraid you won't be able to go back." At this moment, a voice suddenly rang out from the side. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He suddenly turned his head and saw a woman standing not far below him on his right. It was Bei Chun. Not only Bei Chun, but there was also a man and a woman on his left. Yi Xian's expression darkened. "How did you find me?" The corners of Bei Chun's mouth curled up. "Because there's someone above us, but there doesn't seem to be anyone above you. So do you understand?" Yi Xian was about to speak, but at this moment, there was a sudden change. Slap. With a crisp sound of a slap, Bei Chun's entire body was sent flying more than 30 meters away. When she stood up, there was a red claw mark on the right side of her face. "Everyone." Yi Xian was also stunned. Soon he said seriously, "Actually, there's someone above me too. Bei Chun and the others." Chapter 59. To Yi Xian's left, the man and woman became alert and took a few steps back. The two of them hadn't seen how Bei Chun had been beaten up. To be able to send Bei Chun flying under their noses without anyone noticing, this kind of person was definitely not someone they could fight against. On the other side, Bei Chun's expression turned ugly. She didn't even know how she had been sent flying. Who did it? She glanced around coldly, but there was no one around. In the end, she looked at Yi Xian, who was not far away. Yi Xian tidied up his clothes, looking fearless. "Do you think you're the only ones with people above you?" At this point, he raised a finger and shook it gently. "No, actually, I have people above me too. Who doesn't have a backer in the underworld?" "You." Slap. At this moment, there was a crisp slap, and a figure was sent flying. It wasn't Bei Chun who was sent flying, but Yi Xian. Bei Chun and the other two were dumbfounded. Yi Xian was also dumbfounded. F***ck, this guy hits anyone he doesn't like. But can't he do it when there's no one around? How can he get out of this situation now? Yi Xian slowly got up. There was also a small claw mark on the right side of his face. The atmosphere was a little strange. Yi Xian coughed and said, "We're all out here looking for opportunities. Everyone should sit down and talk, right?" Nearby, Bei Chun chuckled. "Is that what you're thinking?" Yi Xian said seriously, "I didn't expect us to be thinking the same thing." In the distance, Bei Chun shook her head and interrupted Yi Xian. "I thought there was something wrong with your head, but now it seems that I wasn't wrong. Your head really isn't." Her voice came to an abrupt halt, because Yi Xian, who wasn't far from her, had turned around and fled. He was extremely fast and disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. Bei Chun's expression turned extremely ugly. Not far away, the man in the ink-white robe looked at Bei Chun coldly. "You talk too much." After that, he and the woman beside him turned around and chased after Yi Xian in the distance. Bei Chun's eyes narrowed slightly, and a ferocious smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. In the next moment, her figure floated forward, and everywhere she went was a mess. In the darkness of the night, Yixian sprinted all the way with a solemn expression, because he'd obtained a piece of information from Bei Chen's words. The reason his whereabouts had been exposed was because someone above him had been leaking information to Bei Chen and the others. Someone was breaking the rules of the game. The reason he dared to break the rules of the game was undoubtedly because he had no one behind him. If it was in Lanxiu, then those big shots would definitely not dare to do this. The reason why those big shots dared to do this was without a doubt because he had no one backing him up. Yixian slowly clenched his right hand. Right now he was facing a very serious problem. No matter how he hid, Bei Chen and the others would find him. But if he didn't flee, then he would definitely be unable to fight Bei Chen and the others on his own. As he ran, Yixian's brows gradually furrowed together. After a while, Yixian seemed to have thought of something, and his brows relaxed. He glanced at the surroundings, and then he ran towards a small hill in the distance. When he arrived in front of the hill, he rolled on the ground, and at the instant he rolled, he'd stealthily hidden the earth rank martial technique in a pile of leaves. He'd done it very stealthily. Meanwhile, he'd rolled to the other side of the hill, and then he ran forward for a while before he stopped. Around 5 breaths of time after he stopped, a white figure flashed over. It was Bei Chen. Bei Chen was around 3 to 4 breaths faster than the man and woman. When he saw Bei Chen, Yixian immediately charged towards her. Bei Chen's lips curled into a cold smile. Her figure trembled, and she turned into a blur as she shot towards Yixian. When she arrived in front of Yixian, she slapped her palm towards Yixian's chest. This attack was actually just a test, and she hadn't used her full strength. The real killing move was yet to come. However, when Yixian arrived in front of her, he didn't make a move, and instead allowed her palm to land on his chest. Bam! Yixian's entire body flew backwards like a kite with a broken string. In the end, he crashed into a tree and fell to the ground. Bei Chen frowned. "What the hell are you doing?" At this moment, the man and woman from before rushed over. When they saw the scene in the middle of the field, they were slightly stunned. Yixian suddenly crawled up from the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and glared at Bei Chen. "I've already given you the earth rank martial skill. Why do you still want to kill me?" Bei Chen was dumbfounded. The man and woman next to her suddenly turned to look at Bei Chen. Both of them had unfriendly expressions. Yixian was still spitting out blood as he glared at Bei Chen. "You're so vicious, woman. You said that you'd let me go if I handed over the high-grade earth rank martial skill. I didn't think that you'd try to silence me just because you were afraid that the secret would be leaked. You're so cruel." Bei Chen narrowed her eyes, and her expression was quite ferocious. "What kind of trick are you playing?" As she spoke, she pointed at the man and woman not far away. "Do you think they'll believe you?" In the distance, the man and woman looked at each other. Soon, they both turned to look at Yixian. At this moment, Yixian suddenly took off his robe. Soon, he was only left with his underwear. When the woman in the ink-white dress saw this, she immediately frowned. Yixian pointed at himself. "Do you see this? I don't even have a single hair on me." As he spoke, he pointed at Bei Chen. "What about you? Do you dare to show everyone the storage ring you're wearing? Do you dare?" Hearing this, the man and woman next to her looked at Bei Chen. To be more precise, they looked at the ring on Bei Chen's finger. Bei Chen glared at Yixian. The murderous intent in her eyes was almost tangible. "You're a great swordsman after all. How could you be so shameless? You look so cheap. Are you a lowly cultivator?" As soon as she spoke, a terrifying aura suddenly swept out from her body. This aura directly pressed down on Yixian. Yixian's eyelids twitched. At this moment, the man and woman in the ink-white robes suddenly made their move. The two of them released their own auras, which instantly shattered Bei Chen's aura and pressure. When he saw the man and woman make their move, Yixian immediately heaved a sigh of relief. On the other side, Bei Chen glared at the man and woman. "Are you two pigs? How could the two of you believe his nonsense?" The man glanced at Yixian, who was still bleeding from the corner of his mouth. "He's a swordsman after all. What he said shouldn't be false." As he spoke, he glanced at the storage ring on Bei Chen's hand. "Can't you just let go of the storage ring, and let us have a look at it?" Hearing this, Bei Chen's expression instantly turned cold. Look at the storage ring? In the world of cultivators, that was a huge taboo. This request could be said to be extremely excessive. Bei Chen slowly clenched his right hand. When the man and woman saw Bei Chen clench his right hand, they immediately turned to face her. Both of them had vigilant expressions on their faces, and they were ready to attack at any moment. And at this moment Yi Xian, who was not far away, suddenly said, "She's waiting for reinforcements from the Kuraki Academy. I just saw her release the Kuraki Academy's distress signal, so there will definitely be students from the Kuraki Academy coming soon. She's just buying time now." Hearing this, the man and woman's expressions instantly turned cold. Find reinforcements, buy time. Both of them looked at Bei Chen, and a mysterious flow of air flowed around them. Bei Chen glared at Yi Xian. If looks could kill, then Yi Xian would have probably died over 100 times by now. Kill her. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly charged at Bei Chen. When they saw Yi Xian attack, the man and woman hesitated for a moment before charging at Bei Chen as well. As for Yi Xian, he just collided with Bei Chen head-on when he was blasted flying again. After that, he didn't attack again. Instead, he rolled a few times to the side, and it didn't take long for him to return to the hill from before. He picked up the earth rank martial technique that was buried in a pile of leaves, and then he rolled a few more times before vanishing into the distance in the blink of an eye. Meanwhile, the sounds of battle resounded from behind him. Yi Xian dashed madly towards Two World City. Not long after Yi Xian started running, Bei Chen fluttered backwards and put some distance between her and the man and woman. She glanced coldly at them and said, "You two idiots. Ask the person behind you." The man and woman exchanged glances, and then they looked up into the sky. After around 10 minutes passed, their expressions turned extremely unsightly. They'd been tricked. The person behind them hadn't been paying attention to Yi Xian at all, so they hadn't been able to notify them immediately. Although only a moment had passed, it was enough for Yi Xian to run far away. Bei Chen turned to look in the direction where Yi Xian had escaped. A swordsman can be so shameless. What an eye-opener. Not far away, the man said coldly, "Don't worry, he can't escape. This earth-rank upper-level martial technique will be taken by the Ning Kingdom." The Ning Kingdom. Bei Chen glanced at the man, then turned around and left. The Ning Kingdom? The Jiang Kingdom? The Tang Kingdom? To her, none of this meant anything, because geniuses like her would one day go to a better place. In front of the gates of Two World City, the 9th princess leaned against the city wall with her arms crossed. No one knew what she was thinking. Suddenly, she raised her head and looked into the distance. Not far away, a woman was walking towards her. The newcomer wore clothes as white as snow, spotless. It was Enlancio. Enlancio walked in front of the 9th princess. The 9th princess was about to speak when Enlancio turned to look at the vast mountain range in the distance. "You've wronged him." The 9th princess frowned slightly. Enlancio said again, "He's not that kind of person." The 9th princess said in a deep voice, "That's an earth-rank upper-level martial technique. No one wouldn't be tempted." Enlancio smiled slightly. "I believe him. P.S. There's no need to strategically slow down today. Don't strategically slow down your tickets. Ask for tickets. Ask for tickets." Chapter 60. I believe him. Enlancio's voice was very soft but firm. The 9th princess leaned against the wall and said indifferently, "Shaoan, let's make a bet?" Enlancio turned to look at the 9th princess. The 9th princess smiled and said, "Let's bet if he's that kind of person. If he is, Shaoan, stay for another year and leave after a year." Enlancio asked, "What if he's not?" The 9th princess smiled and said, "Then I've wronged him. I'm willing to apologize to him personally and give him a golden saber." A golden saber. Enlancio was slightly stunned. The 9th princess's lips curled into a mischievous smile. "Why? Are you jealous?" Enlancio turned to look at the distant mountains. "I usually don't put vinegar when I eat." The 9th princess was speechless. Deep in the mountains, Yi Xian was still running. His current target was Two World City because it was the base camp of the country of Jiang. Once he reached there, Those big shots would definitely not dare to break the rules of the game so unscrupulously. Soon he arrived at a dense forest. After passing through this dense forest, he could see Two World City. The corners of Yi Xian's lips curled up and he sped up. At this moment, a middle-aged man appeared in front of him without any warning. Yi Xian stopped. The middle-aged man wore a gorgeous white robe, and his long hair draped over his shoulders. His right hand was behind his back as he looked at Yi Xian. "Hand over that thing and I'll spare your life." Yi Xian's face sank. This person in front of him must be one of the big shots. Obviously, the other party was prepared to disregard everything for this earth-rank martial skill. Yi Xian slowly clenched his right hand. In the distance, the middle-aged man sneered. "You want to fight?" Yi Xian said indifferently. "Even if I give you that thing, you won't let me go. You'll kill me to silence me, won't you?" The middle-aged man chuckled. "You're smart. However, even if you don't hand it over, can't I kill you and take it?" Just as he was about to attack, Yi Xian suddenly laughed. "Do you really think I'll bring that thing with me?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man frowned. "I underestimated your intelligence. But it doesn't matter. After I capture you, I have ways to make you tell me the location of that thing." With that, he took a step forward. And the ground in front of him instantly cracked open. Moreover, the crack rapidly spread to the front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian's expression changed drastically. Not daring to be careless, he punched out. This punch could be said to have used all of his strength. This was because the middle-aged man in front of him was at least at the Nether Passage realm. He naturally did not dare to underestimate such an expert. With a punch, a powerful fist aura and battle intent surged out. Bang! With a muffled sound, Yi Xian's entire body was thrown several hundred feet away. Yi Xian crawled up slowly from the ground, and his entire right arm had been completely blasted apart. The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed slightly. "What a formidable physical body. You were actually able to forcefully resist an attack of mine. I underestimated you a little." As soon as he finished speaking, he stomped the ground lightly with his right foot. A fist-sized rock suddenly flew up into the air, and then it shot explosively towards Yi Xian like an arrow that had left the bowstring. It was extremely swift, and it directly shattered the air. Yi Xian's pupils constricted slightly as he stood before the middle-aged man. He opened his palm, and a sword appeared in his palm. In the next moment, a ray of light flashed. Hiss! A sword howl resounded. Immediately after, the rock was split into two by the sword radiance. In the blink of an eye, the sword radiance arrived in front of the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man laughed with ridicule, and then he flicked his sleeve. Bang! The ray of light instantly exploded apart, and then Yi Xian's figure was blasted over 30 m away. The middle-aged man's eyes narrowed slightly. He really is a dual cultivator of the sword and martial arts. As he spoke, he glanced at the surroundings. "Looks like there really isn't anyone behind you. Otherwise, it's impossible that you haven't attacked since the beginning." As soon as he finished speaking, he started walking slowly towards Yi Xian. The reason he hadn't attacked rashly was obviously because he was worried that Yi Xian didn't have anyone behind him. Normally, monstrous geniuses that were able to come to this place definitely had some sort of power behind them. But up until this moment, especially when Yi Xian was in a hopeless situation while there was no movement behind Yi Xian, this allowed him to confirm that it was very likely that Yi Xian was an independent cultivator. Since it was an independent cultivator, then he naturally didn't have any worries. Yi Xian stared fixedly at the middle-aged man from afar. The middle-aged man was growing closer and closer, and Yi Xian suddenly leaped forward when the middle-aged man was just a few meters away from him. Seeing that Yi Xian still wanted to attack, the middle-aged man's lips curled into a mocking smile. Yi Xian was only at the changing Qi realm, which was 2 whole realms lower than him. How could Yi Xian be his match? As he thought of this, he actually began to underestimate Yi Xian. However, this was normal. After all, the difference between their realms was just too great. At this moment, a sword suddenly appeared in Yi Xian's left hand. Yi Xian's hands came together, and the 2 swords directly merged into one. The moment the 2 swords merged into one, Yi Xian's arms split open, and fresh blood flowed out. The 2 swords merged into one, and in an instant, it had risen to the level of a bright sword. At this moment, Yi Xian attacked. One sword to decide life and death. This sword had greatly exceeded the strength that Yi Xian should have at this moment. The moment Yi Xian attacked, the middle-aged man's pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle. How is this possible? The power of this sword had completely exceeded his expectations. There was no time to think. The middle-aged man's right hand lightly twisted, and then shook upwards. In his palm, a vortex of air instantly engulfed Yi Xian's sword. There was a moment of silence. Boom. The vortex of air suddenly shattered, and the middle-aged man was directly pushed back more than 200 feet. The moment he stopped, his entire right sleeve was instantly shredded. At this moment, his entire right arm had cracked into a spider web, and blood continuously flowed out from the tiny cracks. The middle-aged man looked at his arm, and then at Yi Xian not far away. For the first time, there was a trace of seriousness in his eyes. Bright sword. What a domineering sword technique. At this moment, he was a little afraid, because if the young man in front of him was of a higher realm, that sword just now could very well have taken his life. That sword was a little too terrifying, and even now he was a little fearful. In the distance, Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. It still didn't work. The difference in realm was still too big. Even if he wanted to challenge someone 2 realms above him, it still wouldn't work. Unless he reached Ascension realm, then he might be able to fight him. But what now? Fight. He couldn't beat him. Escape? He definitely couldn't escape. Call for help. Who? Yi Xian's thoughts raced, and soon his eyes lit up. He coldly looked at the middle-aged man in the distance. I advise you to retreat now, or else, you won't be able to leave even if you want to. The middle-aged man's mouth slightly curled. You want to tell me that there's someone behind you, right? Yi Xian sternly said. Of course, let me tell you, there's a very, very powerful god in my body. God? The middle-aged man chuckled. In your body? Young man, don't tell me you got a concussion from the beating? As he spoke, he slowly walked towards Yi Xian. If there really is a god, why don't you ask him to come out and let me have a look? His right hand, which was hidden behind his back, had a green light. Following the green light, his right hand began to slowly recover. He knew that Yi Xian was stalling for time, and he was also stalling for time. One must know that in this area, there were other strong people who were not weaker than him. He had to ensure that he was in good condition. Otherwise, if others knew that he was injured, even he couldn't guarantee that he would be safe. Yi Xian slowly retreated. You're too weak. The god isn't interested in you. The middle-aged man sneered. Not interested in me? What a joke. I think the god you're talking about is afraid and doesn't dare to come out? At this moment. Pa! With a resounding slap, the middle-aged man was sent flying. Seeing this scene, Yi Xian's eyelid twitched, and he turned to run. Behind Yi Xian, the middle-aged man climbed up. On his right cheek, there was a small red claw mark. The middle-aged man touched his cheek with a dumbfounded expression. Who hit him? He looked around but didn't see anyone. Gradually, the middle-aged man's expression became solemn. He carefully looked around. Which expert is here? No one answered. Meanwhile, Yi Xian had already run out of the dense forest. The middle-aged man was still on the spot, looking around cautiously. After Yi Xian ran out of the dense forest, he saw Two World City. He sped up, and blood continuously flowed from the corner of his mouth. Not only that, but his arms were also constantly bleeding. Apart from that, the wound on his chest that had almost healed split open. As blood flowed out, the clothes on his chest quickly turned blood red. Heavily injured. In the battle with the middle-aged man, he was already heavily injured. In the end, he forcefully fused with the swords, and then used one sword to decide life and death, which made his injuries even worse. It could be said that if he hadn't cultivated to the golden body realm and his body and organs were abnormally strong, he would have been finished. At the entrance of Two World City, the white-clothed woman suddenly raised her head and looked into the distance. When she saw a figure in a sorry state, the white-clothed woman's hand trembled. Behind the white-clothed woman, the ninth princess also raised her head and looked at the figure in the distance. She was stunned. Soon, Yi Xian ran in front of the two women. When he saw the white-clothed woman, Yi Xian was stunned. In the next moment, he casually tossed the high-grade earth rank martial skill in front of the 9th princess, as if he was throwing trash. He slowly walked in front of the white-clothed woman and grinned. "Why are you here?" As soon as he finished speaking, a wisp of blood flowed from his mouth, and then he collapsed to the ground. The white-clothed woman instinctively caught Yi Xian, while Yi Xian lay in the white-clothed woman's embrace like a pile of mud. It was very soft. He instinctively wrapped his arms around the white-clothed woman's waist and buried his head in her chest. The white-clothed woman's body stiffened, but she didn't push Yi Xian away. At a certain corner of the city wall, an old man stomped his feet. "Miss, push him away. Push that little bastard away." Chapter 61. The old man's expression was extremely unsightly when he witnessed this scene. Or it should be said that his expression was extremely gloomy. When had the young miss been so intimate with a man? Right at this moment, 3 figures flashed over from not too far away from the woman and Yi Xian. The person in the lead was Bei Chen, and the other man and woman were standing behind Bei Chen. And Lanxiu glanced at them, and then she handed Yi Xian over to the 9th princess before she turned around and gazed towards the side. Meanwhile, the old man appeared in front of Lanxiu. "Young miss, I found out that some of them didn't abide by the rules of the game." Lanxiu nodded slightly. "I understand." As soon as she finished speaking, she walked slowly towards Bei Chen's group. The old man hesitated for a moment, and seemed to want to say something, but he didn't in the end. Because he sensed that his young miss seemed to be angry. Bei Chen's expression instantly changed when she saw Lanxiu. The other man and woman didn't know Lanxiu, but she did. After all, was there anyone in the kingdom of Jiang who didn't know Lanxiu? Bei Chen had extreme fear on her face. Many people weren't aware that Lanxiu had been invited by the dean of Kuraki Academy, and the dean had personally invited her to join Kuraki Academy. Her answer was that if anyone below the age of 30 could defeat her, then she would join Kuraki Academy. At that time, 2 people had represented Kuraki Academy against Lanxiu, and one of them was her. However, the outcome was that Lanxiu hadn't joined Kuraki Academy. Bei Chen knew that he had no chance of obtaining that high-grade earth rank martial technique. When he saw Lanxiu, Bei Chen had the intention to retreat. Right at this moment, Lanxiu suddenly vanished on the spot. Bei Chen's expression changed drastically when she witnessed this scene. She swiftly formed a square seal with her hands, and then she pressed it down lightly. Everlasting wind control. As soon as she spoke, a gust of violent wind suddenly appeared around her, and it instantly condensed into a tornado that enveloped her. Meanwhile, a spear suddenly appeared in Lanxiu's grasp, and then she swiftly kicked the spear with her right foot. Bang! The spear shot forward like a bolt of lightning. Bang! The tornado exploded apart in the distance. At the same time, an afterimage flashed by. Bang! With a muffled sound, a figure was sent flying hundreds of feet away. It was none other than Bei Chen. Just as Bei Chen came to a stop, the ground behind her cracked open. Blood trickled down from the corner of her mouth. The expressions of the man and woman not far away instantly changed when they saw this. They were well aware of Bei Chen's strength, but he had been defeated in one move by the white-clothed lady? Both of them looked at Lanxiu with eyes filled with curiosity and fear. Lanxiu didn't stop there. After forcing Bei Chen back, her figure flickered and she vanished on the spot. At the instant she vanished, a silver spear appeared in front of Bei Chen. The spear was like a dragon, and the power contained within it was peerlessly domineering. Bei Chen's pupils constricted slightly, and a ferocious smile arose on the corners of her mouth. In the next moment, she formed another seal with her hands. Bestial Soul Seal. Boom! A powerful aura swept out from her body. At the same time, an illusory beast shadow appeared behind her. As soon as this illusory beast shadow appeared here, an invisible pressure surged through the surroundings, and the ground was in a mess. The beast shadow roared furiously at Lanxiu, and then it collided with her spear. Meanwhile, a speck of cold light flickered on the tip of the silver spear. As soon as they collided, bang! The beast's shadow instantly dispersed while Bei Chen's figure was blasted flying, and he flew over 100 m away. On the other side, the man and woman didn't hesitate to charge at Enlancio when they saw Bei Chen lose. Enlancio didn't even spare a glance at them, and she just swept the spear towards the right. This sweep was extremely powerful, and it carried the aura of sweeping through an army. Bang! The man and woman hadn't even approached Enlancio when they were blasted back repeatedly by the might of the spear. On the other hand, Enlancio's figure shook, and she instantly appeared in front of Bei Chen. Bang! The spectators hadn't even seen how Enlancio attacked when Bei Chen was blasted over 100 m away. This time, she crashed to the ground, and she'd just descended to the ground when Enlancio appeared in front of her like a ghost. After that, Enlancio suddenly stomped her foot against Bei Chen's stomach. Bang! Bei Chen's figure arched as her figure scraped against the ground as she flew over 30 m away, and she only stopped after smashing apart a huge rock. Enlancio was about to attack again when a white-haired old man suddenly appeared in front of her. He was one of the 3 vice-deans of Karaki Academy, Mo Song. Enlancio didn't stop there, and she smashed her spear down from above. Mo Song's eyes narrowed slightly as he flicked his sleeve, and then a formidable imposing aura swept out. Bang! That imposing aura was instantly blasted apart. And then Mo Song took a few steps back while Enlancio remained on the spot. There was astonishment in Mo Song's eyes when he witnessed this scene. Enlancio was just about to continue when Mo Song hurriedly said, "Country scholarin, it wasn't a student of my Karaki Academy that injured him. It was the Marquis of the Ning Kingdom, Wu Yinshan." Enlancio stopped, and then Mo Song pointed at a man and a woman nearby. "They're from the Ning Kingdom as well." Enlancio turned around to look at the man and woman, and then their expressions changed. At this moment, they'd clearly recognized Enlancio as well. Enlancio, the genius of the Jiang Kingdom. Enlancio gazed at them while she slowly tightened her grip on her spear. Meanwhile, a weak voice resounded from behind her. "Missin." Enlancio immediately turned around and walked over to the 9th princess. At this moment, Yi Xian had regained consciousness, but he was extremely weak. Yi Xian grinned. "There's no need to fight." Enlancio fell silent. Yi Xian smiled. "I suffered a huge loss today, but I'll get it back in the future." He didn't want to rely on Enlancio for everything. It made him feel like a pretty boy, and he didn't like such a feeling. Enlancio glanced at Yi Xian and nodded. "All right." Mo Song instantly heaved a sigh of relief when he saw this. If Enlancio really refused to let him off, then he really wouldn't know what to do. On the other hand, the expressions of the man and woman eased up slightly. Obviously, they didn't want to fight Enlancio. Mo Song glanced at Yi Xian, and then he turned around and left with Bei Chen. The man and woman didn't dare stay any longer, and they turned around and left as well. Yi Xian wanted to say something, but the 9th princess suddenly said, "Don't speak. Don't you think there's not enough blood?" Enlancio was just about to approach Yi Xian when Elder Ling suddenly walked over to her side. "Young miss, do you really want him to die?" The 9th princess and Yi Xian looked at Elder Ling when they heard this. Enlancio gazed at Elder Ling. Elder Ling smiled bitterly. "Young miss, you're the most outstanding person in our clan in the last 1,000 years. Countless powers and sects want to unite our clan through marriage. What do you think they would do if they found out that you're so close to that young man? They wouldn't dare to act against you, but I can guarantee that he might vanish from this world without anyone noticing one day. They have the strength to do that." When he spoke up to hear, he paused slightly and continued. "Besides that, the patriarch should be aware of his expectations for you. Young miss, you can like others, but you can't like mediocre people." Yes, Yi Xian's natural talent isn't bad indeed, but he really doesn't have the qualifications to be with young miss unless he's able to become the Sword Emperor or Swordmaster before the age of 30. But that's impossible. Young miss, the closer you get to him, the faster he'll die. I'm sure young miss is aware of that. His voice wasn't loud, but it wasn't soft either. So the 9th princess and Yi Xian heard it clearly. Obviously, he'd said it on purpose for Yi Xian to hear. Enlancio fell silent. Elder Ling said in a low voice, "Young miss, you really can't get close to him. The world you're in is completely different from his. and he doesn't have the qualifications to enter your world. Anlancio paid no attention to Elderling, and she looked at Yi Xian instead. What do you think? Yi Xian looked at Anlancio. Do you take me to be your friend? Anlancio nodded. Yi Xian grinned. Then leave the rest to me. Anlancio smiled when she heard this. Yi Xian was instantly stunned by this scene. Anlancio walked over to Yi Xian, and then she withdrew a white handkerchief and lightly wiped the blood off the corners of Yi Xian's mouth. After that, she said in a light voice, I hope you're still a graceful young man when we meet in the future. As soon as she finished speaking, she put away the handkerchief, turned around and left. Can I look for you in the future? Yi Xian suddenly asked from behind her. Anlancio stopped. I'll be waiting for you in the Central Plains. As she finished speaking, she swiftly vanished into the distance. Elderling looked deeply at Yi Xian. Why did you come to look for young miss? Yi Xian grinned. To talk about life, to talk about ideals. Elderling's face was ashen from anger, and he glanced coldly at Yi Xian. Don't come looking for humiliation. As he finished speaking, he turned around and hurriedly followed after her. Yi Xian just looked into the distance, and he still didn't withdraw his gaze even after Anlancio had completely vanished into the distance. At this moment, the ninth princess who was by Yi Xian's side suddenly said, What are you still looking at? They've all left. Yi Xian withdrew his gaze and he lightly moved his body. He seemed to have moved his wounds, and it hurt so much that he gasped. The ninth princess glanced at Yi Xian. Oh, now you know pain? Yi Xian placed a hand on the ninth princess' shoulder, and his entire body leaned against her. The ninth princess frowned slightly, and just as she was about to push Yi Xian away, she was stunned when she saw the wound on Yi Xian's chest. That wound was the one that Yi Xian had suffered while trying to save her. At this moment, blood was still flowing out from that wound. Yi Xian took a deep breath. Big sister, can't you help me to the hospital? Duke Jiu returned to his senses, and he said indifferently, What hospital? I saw that you've already forgotten that you're injured when you were looking at Shaoan. So looking at a beauty can actually heal injuries. Although she said this, she still slowly supported Yi Xian as they walked into the city. My back hurts, and my legs hurt too. Can you carry me? No, I can't walk anymore. Do you believe that I won't beat you to death? Cough. Actually, I can still walk a few steps. Chapter 62. With the help of the ninth princess, Yi Xian walked into Two World City. In the city, a group of soldiers immediately gathered around them. However, they were struck dumb when they saw the ninth princess supporting Yi Xian with her arm. Although the ninth princess was forthright, she had never been so intimate with a man in the military camp. At this moment, the ninth princess suddenly glanced at the group of soldiers. What are you looking at? Get out of here. Hearing this, the group of soldiers immediately retreated in fear. At this moment, Yi Xian's entire body collapsed. This time, he was really exhausted. The ninth princess shook her head slightly and carried Yi Xian to her tent. The tent was very simple. There was only a bed, a table, and a sand table. There was nothing else. After the ninth princess placed Yi Xian on her bed, she said, Shall we do it? Soon, a lady in a green dress walked in with a medical box in her hand. This person was the ninth princess's personal doctor. The ninth princess retreated to the side and looked at Yi Xian. She said in a deep voice, Treat him no matter what medicine you use. The lady in the green dress called Xiao Yi nodded slightly and walked to Yi Xian's side. She gently placed her hand on Yi Xian's pulse. After a while she frowned. He's seriously injured. Hearing this, the ninth princess frowned. Save him. Xiao Yi nodded. Don't worry, Your Highness. Although his injuries are serious, they are not fatal. He just needs to recuperate. However, this recuperation may require many precious medicinal herbs. This, the ninth princess said calmly. The old man has given me many things. Take them out for him to use. Xiao Yi glanced at the ninth princess. There's not much left. Those are for Your Highness in case you need them. Let him use them. The ninth princess added. Her voice was firm and unquestionable. Xiaoyi did not say anything else and nodded slightly. The ninth princess glanced at Yi Xian, who was lying on the bed, before leaving the tent. Outside, the ninth princess opened her right hand, and the superior grade earth-ranked martial technique appeared in her palm. Actually, there was another reason why this high-grade earth-rank martial skill was so precious, and that was because the martial skill within the scroll was preserved using a special method. Simply put, it was utterly impossible to copy, and it was unique. On the other hand, if this high-grade earth-rank martial technique were to be auctioned, then it would absolutely cause countless powers to fight madly for it. However, when that young man returned, he casually threw it to her as though he was throwing rubbish. At this moment, she naturally understood the true reason why the young man wanted this high-grade earth-rank martial technique in the bamboo house. He wanted to draw away those pursuers by himself, and he didn't intend to take possession of this high-grade earth-rank martial technique. She had indeed wronged him. The ninth princess turned her head and looked at Yi Xian in the tent with a complicated expression. After an unknown period of time, Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. He stared blankly for a moment before he suddenly sat up. At this moment he was in a tent. He shook his head, and very quickly, he recalled everything that had happened before he fainted. After a moment, he lowered his head to look at his body. At this moment, his injuries had all been bandaged. As if he had thought of something, he opened his palm and a sword instantly appeared in his palm. The fusion of Ling Xiao and Ling Yu. The two swords had been merged into one. Now, this sword had surpassed the spiritual sword and had reached the level of a bright sword. Unfortunately, he could not devour this bright sword. Otherwise, it was very likely that he would directly reach the ascendant state. Although he could not reach the ascendant state, this sword was now a bright sword. Swords were divided into common sword, spiritual sword, bright sword, true sword, heavenly sword, Taoist sword, and immortal sword. The so-called spiritual sword referred to a sword that had a trace of spirituality. This kind of sword had broken away from the mortal world. As for the bright sword, it meant that the spiritual sword already had a trace of spirituality. If the spiritual sword was a hazy fetus, then the spiritual sword was a baby that had already been born. There was a huge difference in essence. Now even though Yi Xian was only at the chi-controlling realm, with this bright sword he could go against an ascendant realm expert without any pressure at all. Yi Xian retracted his thoughts and glanced at the sword in his hand. One side of the sword was crystal blue, and the other was crimson black. He thought for a moment and said, "You'll be called Ling Xiao Jian now. Right, Ling as in Yi Ling, Xiao as in Anlin Xiao." When he spoke up to this point he chuckled. Obviously he was very satisfied with the name he'd just given himself. Right at this moment, the ninth princess walked in with two large bowls in her hands. Yi Xian hurriedly put his sword away and looked at her. She'd changed into a set of silver soft armor, and she looked especially charming. The ninth princess sat opposite Yi Xian, and passed one of the bowls to Yi Xian. Yi Xian took the bowl, and it was a bowl of fragrant red braised meat. Underneath the red braised meat was white rice. The ninth princess said indifferently, "There's no need to be so particular in the military camp. Just make do with it." After saying that, she began to eat in big bites without any scruples. Yi Xian was also hungry, so he picked up the bowl and started eating. A moment later, the ninth princess stood up. "Accompany me to the Drunken Immortal restaurant tonight." To the Drunken Immortal restaurant? Yi Xian was puzzled. The ninth princess said indifferently, "You were unconscious for 3 days, and 3 days ago, I placed the Earth-level martial skill in the Drunken Immortal restaurant and asked them to auction it. They've been promoting it for 3 days, and they'll auction it tonight." Yi Xian nodded. "All right." The ninth princess glanced at Yi Xian. "You don't have any other thoughts?" Yi Xian was stunned. "What thoughts?" The ninth princess looked straight at Yi Xian. "You exchanged your life for that Earth-level martial skill, so it can be said that it's yours. Now that I'm auctioning it, will you feel uncomfortable?" "So that's what it was about." Yi Xian smiled. "Why would I feel uncomfortable?" The ninth princess just looked at Yi Xian, not saying a word. Yi Xian thought for a moment then said, "We're friends. Shouldn't friends help each other?" The ninth princess looked at Yi Xian for a long time. Finally, She turned around and was about to leave, but the moment she turned around, the golden saber on her waist suddenly fell in front of Yi Xian. Yi Xian was stunned, then subconsciously picked it up. Then he handed the golden saber to the ninth princess. The ninth princess turned her head and looked at him coldly. "You've touched it, I don't want it anymore." With that, she turned around and left the tent. In the same place, Yi Xian was dumbfounded. What the hell? After a while, Yi Xian came back to his senses. He looked at the golden saber in his hand, and was stunned, because this golden saber turned out to be a spiritual weapon. Moreover, it was a supreme-grade spiritual weapon, even better than the Lingxiao sword from before. Yi Xian hurriedly chased after her, and soon he caught up with the ninth princess. Your golden saber is supreme grade, you really don't want it?" The ninth princess turned her head and looked at Yi Xian coldly. "I finally know why you've been single for so many years." With that, she turned around and quickly disappeared into the distance. Yi Xian buffed. At this moment, laughter came from behind Yi Xian. Yi Xian turned around, and behind him was a woman in a green dress. It was Xiao Yi who had treated him. "You are?" Yi Xian asked. When Xiao Yi treated him, he was already unconscious, so he did not know the woman in front of him. Xiao Yi smiled slightly. "When you were unconscious, I was the one who bandaged your wounds." Hearing this, Yi Xian hurriedly cupped his fists. "Thank you very much." Xiao Yi glanced at the golden saber in Yi Xian's hand, and then said, "Are you going to return this saber to Her Highness?" Yi Xian nodded. "This saber is very precious, and she uses a saber. Without this saber, her strength will drop a lot." Xiao Yi suddenly covered her mouth and laughed. "You really relied on your strength to be single." With that, she turned around and left with the medicine box. Yi Xian. A moment later, Yi Xian returned to the tent, and then he took out 2 superior-grade spirit stones and began to absorb them. Although there were external items to heal, spirit qi was the best medicine. Just like that, for hours later, night fell. The ninth princess arrived at Yi Xian's tent. No, it should be said that she returned to her own tent. At this moment, the ninth princess wasn't wearing silver armor. Instead, she was wearing a tight-fitting silver-white dress. The dress was very simple, and there were almost no unnecessary patterns, but it revealed a different feeling. Moreover, her hair was tied up with a white ribbon and hung behind her head, which made her seem even more heroic. The most eye-catching part of her was her eyes. Her eyes weren't very large, but they were sharp like knives, and they were a pair of eyes that one would never forget. The ninth princess flicked her finger, and a brand new robe appeared in front of Yi Xian. "Change your clothes, let's go." After saying that, she walked out of the tent. After a while, Yi Xian left the tent. When she saw Yi Xian outside the tent, the ninth princess was slightly stunned. At this moment, Yi Xian was wearing a black brocade robe. He was tall, and the black brocade robe made his body look even thinner and straighter. His facial features were well defined, and he was definitely handsome, especially his eyes, which were calm and had a hint of determination. Coupled with his long black hair, it could be said that Yi Xian was really handsome. The ninth princess sized up Yi Xian, and then nodded. "You can obviously rely on your looks to make a living, but you insist on cultivating so hard. You can do it." Yi Xian. The ninth princess turned and walked into the distance. "Many big forces will definitely send people here tonight, but I don't know how much they can sell for." Yi Xian followed beside her. "Will there be a problem?" The ninth princess said indifferently. "Don't worry, this is the Drunken Immortal Restaurant's territory. If there is a problem, they will also be responsible. However, as long as it's not Kuraki College, there won't be a problem, and Kuraki College will definitely not become enemies with the Drunken Immortal Restaurant for an upper earth level martial skill." Yi Xian nodded, and as if thinking of something, he asked again. "Previously, when I walked around your camp, I didn't see that woman called Ayu. Is she not in your camp?" Ayu. Naturally, he still remembered this woman. The ninth princess pondered for a moment, and then said, "Fine, you're not an outsider. Ayu was picked up by an old woman not long after you left." As she said that, she glanced at Yi Xian. "Don't worry, it's definitely a great blessing for her." Hearing this, Yi Xian nodded. "That's good." At this moment, A man in black suddenly appeared beside the ninth princess. The man in black wanted to approach the ninth princess, but the ninth princess said indifferently, "Just say it." The man in black glanced at Yi Xian, and then nodded. "Your Highness, the Tang Kingdom and the Ning Kingdom have also sent people to participate in this auction." Hearing this, the ninth princess's expression suddenly turned cold, and her eyes were as sharp as a knife. After a moment, she looked at Yi Xian and chuckled. "Get ready, we're going to go all out tonight." Yi Xian. P.S. I have a small request. I want to see your treasured tickets. Brothers, one ticket can't go to Thailand, can't book a young model, can't go to Singapore, but if you give it to me, I might be able to go. Asking for tickets. Chapter 63. Yi Xian could not help but glance at the ninth princess in front of him. He had killed countless people. In Green City, if he did not kill, others would kill him. However, his intuition told him that the people he had killed were not even worth mentioning compared to the ninth princess in front of him. However, this was normal. After all, she was the commander of an army. When she killed, she would not kill one or two people, but a group of them. At this moment, the ninth princess seemed to have thought of something and suddenly shook her head. "No, you can't get involved in these battles." After saying that, she walked into the distance. Yi Xian followed her. "If you need help," the ninth princess interrupted Yi Xian. "The Jiang country, the Ning country, and some other messy forces. They are targeting me. I have the protection of the army and the elites of the entire Jiang country, but you don't. So you can't get involved." "Well, it's decided." Yi Xian was speechless. After a while, the ninth princess and Yi Xian arrived at the Drunken Immortal restaurant. Although the entire two-world city was a little out of place, the Drunken Immortal restaurant was magnificent and magnificent. It really did not fit in with the two-world city. As soon as the two of them walked in, a delicate and pretty woman came out to welcome them. The woman bowed slightly to the ninth princess. "Ninth princess, your private room is ready. Please follow me." After saying that, the woman gestured for them to enter and led the way. The ninth princess and Yi Xian followed. After a while, the two of them arrived at a luxurious private room. The private room was decorated luxuriously, and the floor was covered with a thick layer of animal skin. In front of the two of them was a crystal table. Behind the table was a transparent crystal wall. The woman bowed slightly to the ninth princess. "Your Highness, there is still 1 hour before the auction officially starts. Please wait for a moment." After saying that, the woman left. Soon 2 women brought some tea, fruits, and snacks into the private room. The ninth princess glanced at the 2 women. "You may leave." The 2 women bowed slightly and left. Only the ninth princess and Yi Xian were left in the private room. Yi Xian looked at the ninth princess. "Ninth princess, Jiangjiu." The ninth princess suddenly said, "You can call me Little Nine like Shaoan." "Little Nine." Yi Xian nodded and didn't think too much about it. He immediately said, "Lil Jiu, we obtained a high-grade Earth rank martial skill from the Swordmaster's abode, and those big shots above are really going to watch helplessly as such a high-grade Earth rank martial skill falls into our hands?" Jiangjiu glanced at Yi Xian. "You're too naive." Yi Xian was speechless. Jiangjiu said calmly, "Those big shots spent so much effort to develop this Swordmaster's cave abode. Do you think they didn't gain anything? Do you know that the dwelling of the Swordmaster of the Two-World Mountain no longer belongs to the kingdom of Jiang? Why?" Yi Xian didn't understand. Jiangjiu said in a low voice. "Then why did the Swordmaster choose that location to establish his abode? That's because there's a natural spiritual vein there. If there's a spiritual vein, then there's definitely a spiritual mine. A spiritual vein is a priceless treasure. If it's developed, it'll be countless times more valuable than an Earth-rank martial technique. The reason why the Swordmaster sent the young people of the various organizations there to search for the treasure is so that they can eat the meat and leave some soup for the people below them. That way, everyone will be happy." As she said that, she fell silent for a moment before she continued. "Logically speaking, that spiritual mine is within the borders of the kingdom of Jiang. so it should belong to the kingdom of Jiang. However, even if they gave it to the kingdom of Jiang, the kingdom of Jiang wouldn't dare to accept it. The old man was rather smart. He decisively gave away that piece of land in exchange for a place to compete for the treasure. Actually, that's already very good. Yi Xian shook his head with a smile. It was just as he had expected. It was not that simple. At this moment, Jiang Jiu added, in this world, there are some struggles that are out in the open. This is something that everyone can see. But there are also some struggles that are hidden. These kinds of struggles are invisible, but they can also be the cruelest. Just like this time. You might not know, but it wasn't just 3 Nether Passage realm experts that died during the development of the Swordmaster's abode. According to my information, at least 10 Nether Passage realm experts have fallen this time. And it's even to the extent that even stronger experts have appeared. As soon as she finished speaking, she seemed to have thought of something, and she looked at Yi Xian. Don't be fooled by the fact that Songlan Academy is on the verge of closing down. That old man of yours isn't a simple figure. So long as he's here, Songlan Academy won't close down. This time, he came to look for all of you. Obviously, he still wants to make a move after staying silent for so many years. However, this is normal. All those years ago, the students of Songlan Academy could be said to have been practically slaughtered by Kuraki Academy. Even his 2 sons and grandsons died miserably. Yi Xian glanced at Jiangjiu. Why are you telling me so much? Jiangjiu thought for a moment, then said, I don't want you to become a sacrificial lamb for those faction struggles. Just as Yi Xian was about to speak, the transparent crystal wall in front of them suddenly lit up. An image appeared on the crystal wall. Within the image was a round stage, and on the round stage stood a woman in a red dress with an extremely good figure. The woman in the red dress bowed slightly to her surroundings. Greetings everyone. I am Su Qing, the manager of the 2 Realm City Management of the Drunken Immortal Restaurant. Tonight's auction will be hosted by me. As she spoke, she looked around and smiled brightly. Tonight, only 3 items will be auctioned. Although it's not much, it definitely won't disappoint everyone. As soon as Su Qing finished speaking, a woman carried an exquisite box onto the round stage. The woman placed the box on the round table in front of the woman in the red dress, then retreated. Su Qing opened the box. Inside the box, there was a thumb-sized green elixir. Within the room, Jiangjiu's expression instantly changed slightly when he saw this elixir. A space-breaking elixir. Yi Xian gazed at the crystal wall before him. On the round stage, Su Qing grinned. A space-breaking elixir. It has an 80% chance of allowing one to advance from the Qi-controlling realm to the hovering realm. Such an elixir is probably very rare in the Jiang Kingdom. The starting price is 1 million gold coins, and every bid must be at least 200,000 gold coins. Within the room, Yi Xian's hands trembled when he heard Su Qing. 1 million gold coins? Yi Xian's eyes were filled with disbelief. After all, the entire city's income for half a year probably didn't even amount to 1 million gold coins. Yet now, a tiny elixir had a starting price of 1 million gold coins. When did gold coins become so worthless? Jiangjiu spoke indifferently by Yi Xian's side. That's enough to shock you? Yi Xian nodded. Very. Jiangjiu shook his head and chuckled. Do you know that most of the wealth in this world is controlled by a small number of people? To put it simply, the poor are very poor, but the rich are very rich. Yi Xian touched the money pouch on his waist and shook his head. I'm really King poor. The corners of the 9th princess's mouth curled up slightly, and a touched smile appeared on her face. Before long, the elixir was bought for 3,600,000 gold coins. 3,600,000 gold coins. Yi Xian smiled bitterly. It's really poverty that limits my imagination. At this moment, a woman carried a box onto the round stage. Su Qing opened the box, and within it was a short saber. The blade was extremely thin, and the handle was pitch black. An unknown beast's shadow was engraved on it. On the stage, Su Qing smiled. The name of the saber is Striking Shadow, a supreme-grade spiritual weapon. Among the spiritual weapons, I dare not say anything else, but in the Jiang Kingdom, this saber is only inferior to the golden saber of our 9th Highness. The starting price is 2 million gold coins, and every bid must be at least 300,000 gold coins. 2 million gold coins. In the private room, Yi Xian was stunned, and then he turned to look at Jiang Jiu. Jiang Jiu raised the teacup in front of him and lightly sipped it, but he didn't say anything. Yi Xian looked at the golden saber hidden on his waist, and then he smiled bitterly. It's too precious. Jiang Jiu still didn't say anything. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then he said, "Thank you." Jiang Jiu turned to look at Yi Xian. "If you want to return it to me, I'll definitely beat you until you can't take care of yourself." Yi Xian grinned, and he felt quite happy in his heart. Jiang Jiu shook his head. "You idiot." Soon the saber on the round stage was bought for 5 million gold coins. 5 million. When he heard this price, Yi Xian felt his heartbeat speed up. 5 million. He couldn't help but look at the golden saber on his waist. Is he going to sell it? As if he had the same thought, Jiang Jiu suddenly said, "If you dare to sell it, I'll definitely cut off a certain part of you and make you a eunuch in the palace." Yi Xian. At this moment on the round stage, Su Qing looked around, and then he smiled slightly. "Everyone, next is the main event." As Su Qing's voice fell, a woman carried a black iron box onto the round stage. Su Qing opened the black iron box, and inside the box was a black scroll. Su Qing smiled and said, "High-grade Earth-class martial technique. Finger of Nirvana. A genuine high-grade Earth-class martial technique. If a levitation realm expert learns it, they can easily fight a nether passage realm expert. If a nether passage realm expert learns it, they won't be invincible among those of the same level, but there will be few who can match them. And if an expert above the nether passage realm learns it, with this martial technique, their strength will increase by at least 40%. After saying this, she looked around. "I'll cut to the chase. The starting price of this martial technique is 15 million gold coins, and each increment must be no less than 2 million gold coins. 20 million. As soon as Su Qing's voice fell, someone immediately made a bid. In the private room, when Yi Xian heard this price, he was completely dumbfounded. 20 million. Holy shit, 20 million? No, someone had already made a bid of 30 million. Jiang Jiu glanced at the excited Yi Xian beside him, and said softly, "Now you know how terrifying the value of the thing you've thrown at me is, right?" Yi Xian turned to look at Jiang Jiu, and then he grinned, and then waved the golden saber in his hand. "No matter how precious, it's not as precious as the friendship between us, isn't it?" He wasn't lying. In his heart, whether it was friendship or kinship, it couldn't be measured with money. Sentimental. Jiang Jiu retracted his gaze, but the corner of his mouth curled up slightly. At this moment, the bid had already reached 46 million. And at this moment, an extremely discordant voice suddenly rang out in every corner of the drunken immortal restaurant. 1 gold coin, I want this martial technique. Inside the private room, several shadows suddenly appeared behind Jiang Jiu and Yi Xian like ghosts, and these people's expressions were incomparably vigilant. Jiang Jiu frowned slightly. There really is someone who dares to cause trouble for the drunken immortal restaurant. At this moment, a voice that hadn't been heard for a long time suddenly rang out in Yi Xian's mind. "Run, run." Yi Xian was stunned, and in the next moment, he grabbed Jiang Jiu's hand, turned around and ran. Chapter 64. Run. It was none other than the mysterious woman who hadn't made an appearance in a very long time. Yi Xian naturally didn't doubt her words at all. When they saw Yi Xian pull Jiang Jiu along and run, Jiang Jiu's guards were first stunned, but it didn't take long for them to instinctively obstruct Yi Xian's path. Yi Xian gazed at Jiang Jiu, and Jiang Jiu glanced at him and said, "Retreat." As soon as he finished speaking, their group swiftly retreated from the Immortal Indulgence Inn. Right at the instant they retreated from the Immortal Indulgence Inn, a strand of formidable force suddenly rained down from the top of the inn. Bang! The Immortal Indulgence Inn instantly exploded apart while numerous afterimages flew out from within it. Besides that, some shrill cries resounded as well. Yi Xian, Jiang Jiu, and the others retreated repeatedly when they witnessed this scene. Both of their eyes were extremely solemn. Right at this moment, a black-robed figure suddenly flashed out from the ruins of the Immortal Indulgence Inn, and the high-grade earth-rank martial technique from before was in the black-robed figure's hand. The black-robed figure was about to leave when a furious shout suddenly resounded from afar. "How dare you!" As soon as this voice resounded, a strand of invisible pressure suddenly descended from the sky and pressed down upon the black-robed figure. Meanwhile, the black-robed figure opened his right palm, and then a bolt of lightning suddenly flashed out from the center of his palm. Bang! A world-shaking rumble instantly resounded through the sky. At the same time, the bolt of lightning instantly illuminated the night sky to the point it seemed like it was daytime. The divine combination realm. Meanwhile, an old man appeared in front of the black-robed figure, and he stared fixedly at the black-robed figure. "Who exactly are you? Why have you come to my Immortal Indulgence Inn?" "The Immortal Indulgence Inn? The black-robed figure suddenly started laughing. "Is it very great?" His voice was strange and hoarse, and he'd obviously concealed it. The old man was about to speak when the black-robed figure suddenly raised his right hand and pressed it down. Bang! A bolt of lightning blasted down from the top of the old man's head. The old man's expression changed drastically. He shook his hands towards the sky, and then a strand of formidable force surged out from the center of his palm. However, this force had only just come into contact with the bolt of lightning when it exploded into pieces. In the next moment, bang! The old man directly smashed into the ground. In the sky, the black-robed man did not attack again. Instead, his figure shook as he shot towards the distant horizon. In the blink of an eye, the black-robed man disappeared into the distant night. Down below, the old man crawled out of the ruins. He stared at the distant horizon and crushed a thumb-sized stone with his right hand. The stone trembled slightly and turned into a ray of black light that disappeared into the sky. Obviously, he was calling for help. Not long after, the sound of fighting suddenly came from the distant horizon. Obviously, the powerhouses of the drunken immortal Inn had arrived. At this moment, a woman slowly walked up to Yi Xian and the ninth princess. This person was Su Qing, who had auctioned the item earlier. Su Qing bowed slightly to the ninth princess and said, "Your Highness, I'm sorry. The drunken immortal Inn will recover the item. Please give the drunken immortal Inn some time." The ninth princess looked at the sky and nodded. "I'll come to the drunken immortal restaurant in 5 days. After that, she turned around and left with Yi Xian. After walking for a while, the mysterious woman's voice suddenly rang in Yi Xian's mind. "Go after them." "Go after them?" Yi Xian was stunned. "Hurry up." The mysterious woman's voice rang again. That person just now had the aura of a Dao Law. The aura of a Dao Law. Yi Xian's heart skipped a beat. "Senior, why didn't you say so earlier? I should have chased after them earlier." The mysterious woman said calmly, "That person just ran away and you're already chasing after them. Do you have a death wish?" Yi Xian was speechless. "What's wrong?" Jiangjiu, who was beside Yi Xian, asked. Yi Xian collected his thoughts and looked at Jiangjiu. "I have something urgent to do. You go back first." After that, he turned around and ran. Jiangjiu frowned slightly. After a moment of silence, she looked at an old man beside her. "Follow him. Don't let anything happen to him." The old man nodded. His figure trembled and he disappeared on the spot. However, not long after, the old man returned to Jiangjiu's side with a rather ugly expression. "Your Highness, I lost him." Jiangjiu's eyes narrowed slightly. "How is that possible?" The old man spoke in a low voice. "I don't know. His aura is completely gone. It's like he vanished from the world." Jiangjiu gazed into the distance when she heard this. After a short moment, she spoke softly. "That fellow is quite mysterious." Outside Two World City, Yi Xian was dashing madly all the way, and it didn't take long for him to enter the boundless depths of the mountains. As soon as he entered the mountains, he heard the sounds of battle resounding from deep within. "Stop." The mysterious woman's voice resounded abruptly. Yi Xian hurriedly stopped. "Senior?" the mysterious woman said. "Wait for them to finish fighting." Yi Xian found a place to sit down cross-legged, and then he spoke in a low voice. "Senior, what exactly are Dao laws?" The mysterious woman said. You'll find out in the future. Yi Xian nodded, and then he said, Senior, that fellow on the second level has woken up. The mysterious woman said. I know. Yi Xian hurriedly said. Can you beat it up? Slap. Yi Xian was blasted flying. He flew over 100 m away, and he even smashed through 2 trees along the way. When he crawled up from the ground, there was a red handprint on the right side of his face. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman spoke abruptly. You deserve a beating. Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman continued. Forget about that fellow on the second level for now. The important matter at hand is to quickly obtain a Dao Law. This pagoda was heavily damaged all those years ago, so I'm afraid it'll be a huge problem if it doesn't have a Dao Law. Yi Xian rubbed his right cheek and nodded. I know, but that fellow on the second level. Don't worry, it wouldn't dare to kill you. The mysterious woman said. You're the master of the pagoda now. Once you die, the entire pagoda will be without a master. At that time it'll have to face the pagoda itself. Even though the pagoda doesn't have a Dao Law, its instinctive resistance isn't something it can resist. However, the pagoda won't act rashly with you here. So they won't let you die before it comes out. Yi Xian was quite speechless. The pagoda isn't a threat at all with me here. What the hell? Bang! Right at this moment, a shocking explosion resounded from the mountain range in the distance, and then countless bolts of lightning dashed through the horizon like silver snakes. Yi Xian's eyelids twitched when he witnessed this scene. Senior, that fellow is too strong. Would my life be in danger if I chase after it like this? The mysterious woman spoke indifferently. Fortune comes from danger. Yi Xian was speechless. Numerous explosions were still resounding in the distance. Moreover, Yi Xian noticed that the ground and the trees in the surroundings had actually started to tremble. What sort of expert is this? Yi Xian's expression was extremely solemn. Right at this moment, the distant sky suddenly calmed down. The mysterious woman's voice resounded. Chase after it. Yi Xian didn't hesitate and immediately chased after it. The further he went, the more shocked he was, because many trees along the way had turned pitch black. Moreover, the ground had even cracked open as if it had experienced an earthquake. Yi Xian felt slightly guilty when he witnessed this scene. There was no doubt that the black-robed man's strength was absolutely not something he could go against right now. The mysterious woman spoke abruptly. I'm here. Why are you panicking? Yi Xian hurriedly said with a serious expression. With Senior's words, I wouldn't panic even if I had to challenge the entire drunken immortal in on my own. As soon as he finished speaking, he sped up. In next to no time, he arrived at a small hill. On the other side of the hill, a small hill had been shattered, and there were bolts of lightning dashing through the ground from time to time. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. That black-robed man is already so strong, so why does he still want to seize that earth-rank martial technique? The mysterious woman said. That martial technique from before is only able to bring forth its true might in the hands of that black-robed man. Moreover, if he possesses that martial technique, then that black-robed man's strength would at least increase by 30 to 40%. When she spoke up to here, she paused for a moment, and then she continued, Go to the right. There's a waterfall over 1 kilometer to the right. Yi Xian flashed towards the right repeatedly when he heard this, and it didn't take long for him to arrive before a waterfall. Yi Xian was instantly stunned when he laid eyes on the waterfall. It was exactly that waterfall that he and Jiang Jiu had been hiding at not too long ago. Yi Xian arrived at the small hole near the waterfall. Sure enough, there was a person lying there, and it was exactly that black-robed man. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. Senior, are the Dao laws in this fellow's possession? The mysterious woman replied. No. Yi Xian was speechless. The mysterious woman continued. He has the aura of a Dao law on him. In other words, he's definitely approached the Dao laws from somewhere. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. This fellow seems to be unconscious right now. I'll ask him when he wakes up? That's not realistic. I'll probably be beaten to death if he wakes up. The mysterious woman suddenly said. This fellow isn't unconscious. Yi Xian was speechless. Right at this moment, A terrifying wave of pressure suddenly enveloped Yi Xian, and Yi Xian felt like a mountain was pressing down on him. He wasn't able to move at all. Yi Xian hurriedly said in his heart, "Senior, quickly make a move." However, the mysterious woman didn't speak. Yi Xian's face instantly turned pale. "Senior, don't screw me over." The mysterious woman still didn't speak. Right at this moment, the black-robed person suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. At this moment, the black-robed person had already taken off her mask, and a large part of her black robe was also torn. Thus, Yi Xian could clearly see the black-robed person's face. When he saw the black-robed person's face, Yi Xian was instantly stunned. A woman. The black-robed person before him was actually a woman. Moreover, it was a peerlessly beautiful woman. Her eyes were very large, calm, and cold, and her face was flushed and delicate. She was like a sparkling and translucent piece of jade that would cause one's imagination to run wild. When her facial features were put together, there was an indescribable beauty to her. Most importantly, the pair of huge breasts in front of her. They were too huge, but they didn't lose their balance because her figure was exquisite to begin with. This was a woman that could make a man's blood boil with just a glance. However, at this moment, Yi Xian's blood did not boil. Only his entire body was ice cold. The woman stared at Yi Xian. "Who are you?" Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then he said, "Just pretend that I've never been here, all right?" The woman looked at Yi Xian for a long time. Gradually, her expression became extremely solemn because Yi Xian was right in front of her, but she couldn't sense Yi Xian's aura. Obviously, this was because of the mysterious woman. At this moment, the woman suddenly turned her head to look outside the waterfall. Soon, an old man landed on a tree in the distance. The woman's expression changed slightly. In the next moment, she directly flashed in front of Yi Xian, and then she stuck close to Yi Xian just like that. Yi Xian's body instantly froze on the spot. Outside, the old man glanced at the surroundings. He glanced at the waterfall and swept his divine sense around it. In the blink of an eye, he turned around and disappeared into the distance. At the small pit, the woman looked at Yi Xian, who was very close to her. "Carry me to the kingdom of Ning." Her voice revealed a trace of unquestionable killing intent. Yi Xian fell silent, but he was wailing in his heart. "Senior, save me." The mysterious woman did not respond. Chapter 65. Deep in the night, faint moonlight poured down, and the ground was covered in silver. Yi Xian sat on the ground in a small pit behind the waterfall, and the black-robed woman was in front of him. Both of them were very close to each other, and because the pit was very small, Yi Xian was able to clearly smell the fragrance coming from the woman's body. However, at this moment, he didn't have a shred of affection in his heart. All he wanted to do now was flee. Unfortunately, he didn't have a chance to flee at all. Even though the woman before him seemed to have suffered a very serious injury, she was absolutely not someone he could go against right now. All he could do now was wait and look for an opportunity. As for the mysterious woman, he didn't hold any hope in her. Meanwhile, the black-robed woman suddenly stood up. "Carry me on your back." Yi Xian looked at the woman's feet, and only now did he notice that there was a pool of blood beneath her feet. Without a doubt, her legs were probably heavily injured. When he witnessed this scene, some thoughts arose in Yi Xian's mind. "Want to run?" The black-robed woman suddenly smiled and said, "Why don't you give it a try?" Yi Xian glanced at the black-robed woman. In the end, he didn't choose to flee, because the difference in their cultivations was truly too great. Such a difference in cultivation wasn't something that could be made up for by external forces. Yi Xian's back was facing the black-robed woman, and the black-robed woman didn't care about anything and directly lay on Yi Xian's back. Big. This was what Yi Xian felt at this moment. Earlier, he'd only seen the magnificence of a certain part of the woman, but now that he felt it for himself, he noticed that it might be even bigger than what he'd seen. The second feeling was soft. Extremely, extremely soft. At this moment, Yi Xian thought of a phrase, soft and fragrant. Yi Xian didn't dare think too much about it, and he leaped out of the waterfall and dashed in the direction the black-robed woman pointed. On Yi Xian's back, the black-robed woman glanced at Yi Xian. Her expression was indifferent, but there was a trace of doubt in her eyes. Because up until now, she still couldn't understand why she couldn't sense Yi Xian's aura, even though he was standing in front of her. This was extremely abnormal. After all, she was several realms higher than Yi Xian. This gap couldn't be bridged by any cultivation technique. However, she just couldn't sense Yi Xian's presence. Yi Xian didn't know that this was the reason why the black-robed woman didn't kill him. In any case, he was quite depressed now. The mysterious woman had said that she would be there, but she didn't say anything at the critical moment. Now his life and death were in the hands of the black-robed woman. Aggrieved. Although he felt aggrieved, he did not dare to say anything. They were all big shots, and he could not afford to offend them. Yi Xian ran all the way to the border of Ning country. Ning country. Yi Xian also had some understanding of this country. The closest countries to the Jiang country were the Tang country and the Ning country. The Jiang country and the Tang country had constant friction. As for the Ning country, it didn't have a good relationship with the Jiang country, nor did it have a good relationship with the Tang country. It was like watching the tigers fight. Part of the reason why the Tang country and the Jiang country hadn't started a war yet was because they were afraid of the Ning country. With the Ning country around, neither the Jiang country nor the Tang country would dare to start a war easily. About half an hour later, the black-robed woman on Yi Xian's back suddenly said, "Stop." As soon as she said that, Yi Xian immediately stopped. As soon as he stopped, there was a sound of wind breaking above his head, and it wasn't just one. Yi Xian's expression turned grave when he sensed the two waves of pressure that flashed over his head. Either one of those two waves of pressure was not something that he could deal with at his current level. The black-robed woman glanced up and sneered. The drunken immortal establishment has actually sent out 2 divine unity realm experts. Yi Xian said sternly, "Senior, why don't we surrender?" If they surrendered to the drunken immortal establishment, it shouldn't be a problem with the purple card. Surrender? The black-robed woman was amused by Yi Xian's words. Are we going to die if we surrender? Yi Xian. The black-robed woman patted Yi Xian's head gently. Let's go now. Yi Xian had no choice but to continue forward. As he ran, it was unavoidable for him to brush against the black-robed woman's body. In particular, the strange feeling from his back made him feel very comfortable. However, he dared not think too much about it. After all, the woman's strength far exceeded his. A night passed. By now, Yi Xian and the black-robed woman had already left the Two-World Mountains. They were less than a day away from the border of the Ning country. When Yi Xian passed by a river with the black-robed woman on his back, the black-robed woman suddenly said, "Stop." Yi Xian stopped. The black-robed woman pointed to the river. "Carry me there." Yi Xian could only do as she said. Yi Xian placed the black-robed woman on a rock by the river. Then he retreated to the side and looked around from time to time. "Want to escape?" The black-robed woman turned to look at Yi Xian. "I can easily kill you within 500 feet. If you don't believe me, you can try." Yi Xian was silent, but in his heart he said, "Senior, can you bear to see this woman bully me like this? Come out and hit her." The mysterious woman didn't speak. Yi Xian's face was filled with despair. At this moment, the black-robed woman suddenly said, "Come here." Yi Xian glanced at the black-robed woman. He thought for a moment, and then walked in front of the black-robed woman. "After I send you to the Ning country, you will definitely kill me to silence me, right?" There was a trace of surprise in the black-robed woman's eyes. Obviously, she didn't expect Yi Xian to suddenly say this. Yi Xian looked straight at the black-robed woman. "You robbed something from the drunken immortal building. You can't let outsiders know about this. So when I send you to the Ning country, it will be the day of my death, right?" The black-robed woman looked at Yi Xian and smiled. "I underestimated your wisdom." As she spoke, she placed both her legs in the river, allowing the water to wash away the bloodstains on her legs. "You can choose to die now or later." Yi Xian smiled. "I have another choice." The black-robed woman turned to look at Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. "I can choose to die together with you." The black-robed woman chuckled. "You've overestimated yourself." Yi Xian opened his palm, and the spirit grace sword appeared in his palm. The black-robed woman's eyes instantly narrowed when she saw the sword. Bright sword. Meanwhile, the spirit grace sword in Yi Xian's hand started to tremble violently. The black-robed woman looked at Yi Xian, and Yi Xian looked straight at her. I'm definitely unable to defeat you. However, so long as I send out a strike and cause some commotion here, I believe that the experts of the Drunken Immortal building will definitely rush over. At that time, without my aura concealment, you won't be able to escape at all. It's fine if you die, but with the temper of the Drunken Immortal building, they will definitely not let the power behind you off. What do you think? The black-robed woman smiled. Perhaps you won't even have the chance to send out a strike. Then I'll give it a try. As soon as he finished speaking, killing intent surged explosively in Yi Xian's eyes. Obviously, he was going to execute a strike to decide life and death. The mysterious woman's silence allowed him to know that he could only rely on himself if he wanted to live. And placing his hopes on someone else was absolutely an extremely foolish way of thinking. On the other hand, Yi Xian was decisive. When he said he was going to risk his life, he really meant it. He wasn't trying to scare the black-robed woman. He was going to die anyway, so why not drag someone down with him before he died? The black-robed woman's eyes narrowed when she saw that Yi Xian was serious. Stop. Yi Xian stopped, but the spirit grace sword in his hand was still trembling violently. Obviously, it would explode at any moment. The black-robed woman looked Yi Xian in the eye. I've really underestimated your courage, Yi Xian said in a low voice. I only want to live. The corners of the black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. If I'm not wrong, you seem to be the one who came looking for me. Even though I don't know how you found me, you definitely didn't come looking for me to save me, right? Yi Xian thought for a moment, and then he said, I won't hide it from you. The reason I came looking for you was to ask you about something. The black-robed woman was slightly curious. Go on. Ask her where she sensed the energy of the earth. Right at this moment, the mysterious woman's voice resounded abruptly. Yi Xian gazed at the black-robed woman. Where did you sense the energy of the earth? The black-robed woman swiftly turned to look at Yi Xian when she heard this, and there was a trace of disbelief in her eyes. How do you know that I've sensed the energy of the earth? Yi Xian said indifferently, I guessed. The black-robed woman stared fixedly at Yi Xian, as if she wanted to see through him. Yi Xian didn't show any weakness and met her gaze. A short moment later, the black-robed woman said, Who exactly are you? Yi Xian shook his head. Let's get straight to the point. I'll send you to the Kingdom of Peace. You can't kill me once you arrive there, and you have to tell me where you sense the energy of the earth. The black-robed woman fell silent for a long time before she nodded. All right. Yi Xian thought for a moment and said, Can you make an oath? To be honest, I don't really believe you. The black-robed woman turned to look at Yi Xian and laughed coldly. Then attack right now. However, I have to remind you that I might not die if the immortal indulgence catches up to me, but you'll definitely die. Yi Xian took a step back and looked her in the eyes. You have to swear that not only can you not kill me, you can't cripple me, or imprison me. In any case, you can't harm me. Otherwise, we'll take each other down with us today. As soon as he finished speaking, the spirit grace sword in his hand started trembling violently, and a glow flickered on its tip. So long as he issued a command in his heart, the howl of the sword would resound through the sky. The black-robed woman stared fixedly at Yi Xian with an extremely icy cold gaze. You've really thought it through. Yi Xian didn't show any weakness and met her gaze. If you don't swear, then we'll take each other down with us today. The black-robed woman gazed at Yi Xian for a long time and didn't speak. Right at this moment, the sword in Yi Xian's hand trembled violently. An array of sword light was about to erupt. The black-robed woman suddenly said when she witnessed this scene, All right, I swear that I won't kill you or beat you after you send me to the Kingdom of Peace, and I won't imprison you either. If I go against this, then I'll definitely suffer backlash from inner demons in the future. Yi Xian instantly heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. If it was possible, he didn't want to fight to the death as well. Who wouldn't want to live? Yi Xian put his spirit grace sword away, and then he walked over to the black-robed woman. Get up here. We're leaving right now. The black-robed woman glanced at Yi Xian while a trace of a strange smile appeared on the corners of her mouth. She lay on Yi Xian's body, and Yi Xian instantly sped up. All he wanted to do now was send this woman to the Kingdom of Peace as soon as possible, and then search for the Tao laws. Because the mysterious woman was helping them conceal their auras, Yi Xian and the black-robed woman weren't pursued by the experts of the Immortal Indulgence Inn, and they finally arrived at the border of the Kingdom of Peace on the second night. Within a dense forest, Yi Xian put the black-robed woman down, and then he moved back a certain distance. We're here. The black-robed woman gazed at Yi Xian and didn't speak. Yi Xian was shocked in his heart. You wouldn't be going against your oath, right? Why would I? The corners of the black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. I don't want to have inner demons in the future, but... Hearing these two words, Yi Xian secretly cursed in his heart. He turned around and ran, but the black-robed woman appeared in front of him like a ghost and grabbed his throat. Yi Xian stared at the black-robed woman. The black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. Don't worry, I won't kill you, nor will I cripple you, nor will I imprison you, but, as she spoke, she took out a pink pill and flicked her finger. The pill directly fell into Yi Xian's throat. The black-robed woman retreated a certain distance, and her mouth curled up into a faint and strange smile. Yi Xian stared at the black-robed woman. What did you give me to eat? The black-robed woman's mouth curled up slightly. You'll know soon enough. At this moment, Yi Xian's face instantly turned red. At the same time, his whole body became incomparably hot, as if a ball of fire was burning within his body. In the distance, the black-robed woman chuckled. Her smile was very charming and alluring. This is the Ning country's famous golden spear pill. It is said that it can make a man not fall for a night. You're very lucky. Saying this, she pretended to be surprised. I almost forgot. This is deep in the mountains. Where did this woman come from? Although there are no people here, there are many wild beasts here, hee. As she spoke, she turned and walked into the distance. After walking for a while, she seemed to think of something. She turned around and said, I didn't kill you, nor did I cripple you, nor did I imprison you. As she spoke, her body floated and she was about to fly away. At this moment, the world prison pagoda within Yi Xian's body trembled slightly. In the blink of an eye, 2 rays of sword light suddenly shot out from Yi Xian's body. In the distance, the black-robed woman seemed to have sensed something, and she immediately turned around. Her expression changed drastically when she saw those 2 strands of sword light, and she swiftly slapped her right hand forward. This slap caused countless bolts of lightning to surge out like a net. However, the 2 rays of sword light directly tore this net apart. In the next moment, hiss! The 2 rays of sword light pinned the black-robed woman to one of the trees. The 2 rays of sword light stared fixedly at her, and directly sealed the meridians within her body, causing her to be unable to use the profound qi within her body at all. At this moment, Yi Xian pounced directly in front of the black-robed woman. At this moment, Yi Xian's eyes were blood red, and his entire body was boiling hot. He seemed like a wild beast in heat. When she saw Yi Xian in such a state, the black-robed woman's expression instantly changed. She stared fixedly at Yi Xian and said fiercely, If you dare to touch this queen will exterminate your entire family. However, Yi Xian didn't care at all, and he directly started to tear at her madly. When she saw this, a trace of panic finally appeared in the black-robed woman's eyes. Don't act recklessly or this queen. Just at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly covered her mouth with one hand and roared, If you have anything to say it later. As soon as he spoke, he directly hugged the black-robed woman with both hands. P.S. May I ask weekly, how many readers silently read and silently vote? Come out of the book review and comment section, and let this egg have a look. If you don't want to say anything, you can also vote. Chapter 66. Vent. At this moment, Yi Xian just wanted to vent crazily. In the night, the sky was a blanket, the ground was a bed, a beautiful woman was in his arms. The tree trembled, her hair tilted, and she flew up into the sky. Another round and another round, each louder than the last. You are as shy, quietly put her head away. After an unknown period of time, the sky had already turned white. Under the small tree, it was quiet. At this moment, Yixian was lying on the ground, and on the tree in front of him was the woman in the black robe. No, the woman was no longer in the black robe, and the woman's body was exposed to the air without reservation. The woman looked exhausted. At this moment, Yixian on the ground moved slightly, and then he sat up. His head was about to explode. This was what Yixian felt at this moment. He shook his head violently, and after a while, he felt a little better. As if he thought of something, he suddenly looked up at the woman in front of him. At this moment, the woman was naked, and her beautiful figure and fiery heat were exposed to him without reservation. And on the inside of the woman's thigh, there were traces of blood. At this moment, Yixian had already remembered everything. Yixian retracted his gaze and he said in a deep voice, "Senior? Why didn't you stop her?" The mysterious woman's voice sounded. "How? Cure you?" Yixian said in a deep voice. "Senior doesn't have the ability to cure me?" The mysterious woman said, "I do." Just as Yixian was about to speak, the mysterious woman said, "Do you know what I hate the most in my life? I hate people who go back on their words the most. This person went back on her words, so she should suffer the consequences." Yixian smiled bitterly. "Senior, but the mysterious woman suddenly said, "You're the one who benefited. What else are you not satisfied with?" Yixian. At this moment the mysterious woman said, "Kill her, let's go." "Kill her?" Yixian was stunned. The mysterious woman said indifferently, "What else? With this woman's strength, if you don't kill her, wouldn't it be as easy as crushing an ant for her to kill you in the future? Don't count on me. I've already exhausted a great deal of energy the last time we fought. This time, my condition has worsened. I can at most last for a day. After a day, I'll fall into a deep sleep. We must obtain that Tao law within a day." Yixian's expression turned solemn. "Senior, are you all right? If you find Tao laws, I will feel a bit better," the mysterious woman said. Yixian nodded. He hesitated for a moment before looking at the woman before him. At this moment, the woman was staring at him. Her expression was extremely calm, and there wasn't the slightest ripple in her eyes. Yixian thought for a moment, then walked in front of the woman. He looked straight into her eyes. "I'm your first man, and you're my first woman. Neither of us is losing out." As he spoke, he picked up the clothes on the ground and put them on for the woman. As he was putting on the clothes for the woman, he felt his body become restless again. It should be said that he was a little impulsive. It was because of the medicine. It was because of the medicine. Yixian took a deep breath. He thought to himself that the medicine in his body was definitely still there. Yes, it must be because of the medicine. The medicine in your body has already disappeared, the mysterious woman suddenly said. Yixian was speechless. A moment later, Yixian forcefully suppressed the restlessness in his heart and helped the woman put on her clothes. However, the woman's clothes had already been torn by him earlier. Therefore, the woman's body could be said to be exposed at this moment. Yixian took off his robe and covered the woman's body before turning to leave. "You'll regret it if you don't kill me," the woman suddenly said. Her voice was cold and emotionless. Yixian stopped in his tracks. "Even if you kill me, I'll still be your man. Hee." As he spoke, he broke into a run. Not long after, Yixian disappeared from the woman's sight. Not long after Yixian disappeared, the two rays of sword light on the woman's body suddenly disappeared. After regaining her freedom, the woman's expression instantly became ferocious. Boom! Countless bolts of lightning suddenly swept out from her body. In an instant, the forest within a radius of several dozen feet was directly leveled to the ground. The woman soared into the sky and looked around. However, at this moment, she did not find Yixian's aura at all. That youth seemed to have disappeared from the world. The woman's expression was somewhat frightening. A moment later, her figure trembled and she disappeared into the horizon. Not long after, she arrived at a capital city. This capital city was the imperial capital of the Ning country. As soon as the woman arrived at the city, Countless soldiers in front of the city knelt in unison. "Greetings, Your Majesty." The woman's figure trembled, and she directly entered the city. Soon she arrived at the imperial palace. Everywhere she passed, all the soldiers knelt. After entering the imperial palace, the woman directly went to the main hall. She sat on the dragon throne and picked up a brush in her lily-white hand. A moment later, a person appeared on the paper in front of her. This person was Yi Xian. The woman glanced at the person in the painting and said coldly, "Have the Golden Guards go to the Jiang country to find this person. I want all information about this person in 3 days." A voice sounded from a corner. "Do you want him dead or alive?" The woman's eyes gradually turned cold. Somewhere deep in the mountains, Yi Xian madly ran all the way. Yi Xian suddenly asked, "Senior, do you think that I'm soft-hearted?" The mysterious woman said, "If you kill her, I'll look down on you." Yi Xian was slightly startled. "Why? Didn't you tell me to kill her?" The mysterious woman said, "If you kill her, it means that you're afraid of her. The most taboo for a swordsman is fear. If you don't kill her, it means that you're not afraid of her. In other words, you believe that you can become stronger than her in the future. This is a good point." Yi Xian hesitated for a moment and then said, "That senior. Actually, I didn't think that much." The mysterious woman. Seeing that the mysterious woman did not speak, Yi Xian cursed inwardly and hurriedly said, "Of course senior is right. As a man, how can I be afraid of a woman? In the future, I want to become stronger. I want to become a sword immortal. I want that woman to know that sleeping with me is the proudest thing in her life." "Stop, stop. Stop." The mysterious woman suddenly said, "If you continue, I'm afraid that I won't be able to stop myself from killing you." Yi Xian. A day later, Yi Xian returned to the Two-World Mountain. "Senior, I don't remember that woman saying where she felt the power of earth. Just do as I say." Yi Xian nodded and quickened his pace. When night fell, Yi Xian returned to the Swordmaster's cave according to the mysterious woman's directions. He walked all the way down and soon arrived at the entrance of the underground palace. At this moment, the mysterious woman suddenly said, "You don't have to go in, go to the right." Yi Xian turned around and saw that there was a mountain wall on the right. There was no path at all. The mysterious woman said, "Hit." Yi Xian nodded, walked up to the mountain wall, and threw a punch. Boom. The mountain wall crumbled, but there was still a mountain wall behind it. "Keep hitting," the mysterious woman said again. Yi Xian nodded and continued. Just like this, after almost 7 minutes, a Xiao Dao appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was a completely different world. Yi Xian was stunned. The mysterious woman said, "Go down." Yi Xian nodded and slowly walked down. The more he walked, the more shocked he became. This was simply an underground world. Just like this, he walked for almost an hour, but he still hadn't reached the end. An hour later, Yi Xian found that the surroundings were getting hotter and hotter. "Keep going." The mysterious woman's voice sounded again. Yi Xian nodded and continued to walk down. Another hour passed. At the moment, his face was flushed from the heat. Yi Xian stopped. "Senior, it's too hot." The mysterious woman fell silent for a moment before she said, "Use the sword glow to protect yourself." Yi Xian nodded and withdrew the spirit elegance sword. He emanated a sword glow to protect himself, and with the sword glow blocking the heat, he instantly felt much better. "Keep going." The mysterious woman's voice sounded again. Yi Xian nodded and quickened his pace. The lower he went, the hotter the surrounding temperature became. However, he forcefully endured it. Dao Law. He hadn't forgotten what the mysterious woman had said. With a Dao Law, his strength would be able to improve greatly. Of course, the most important thing was that with a Dao Law, he could make that fellow on the second level worry a little. Otherwise, that fellow would run out and slap him from time to time, and it would be extremely uncomfortable. Just like this, after walking for around 2 hours, Yi Xian stopped. Because there was an expanse of magma before him. There was really no path. Yi Xian was about to speak when he suddenly looked towards the center of the nearby magma. There was an earthen yellow object floating at the center. Yi Xian took a closer look. Soon he was dumbfounded. The earthen yellow object actually had the word earth in it. The word just floated at the center of the magma, and the magma transformed into nothingness every time it came into contact with it. Senior, Yi Xian asked, could this be that Dao Law? The mysterious woman's voice resounded. The Grand Dao Law. If you're able to subdue it, then you just have to step on the ground to obtain an endless supply of earth energy when you fight others in the future. Besides that, it's equivalent to being able to control the first level of the pagoda. At that time, you'll be able to store everything on the first level, and even use the first level to suppress your enemies. Yi Xian instantly felt quite excited when he heard this. Senior, how do I subdue it? The mysterious woman said. Don't get happy too early. Even though this Dao Law has been heavily injured, it will instinctively resist. So it might be slightly difficult and painful for you to subdue it. Yi Xian nodded. A little pain is fine. I can endure it. That's good, the mysterious woman said. Now calm down and listen to my instructions. Slowly sense the pagoda and then summon it. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. 10 breaths later, he suddenly opened his eyes. An illusory Xiaotao appeared between his eyebrows. Boom. In an instant, all the magma underground turned into nothingness. At this moment, the earthen yellow earth character in the distance trembled slightly. Following this, it turned into a ray of earthen yellow light, and entered between Yi Xian's eyebrows. Kacha. As a cracking sound rang out, Yi Xian's eyes widened. His eyes were bloodshot. Ah! Yi Xian's body began to crack layer by layer at a speed visible to the naked eye, and blood splattered everywhere. Senior, this isn't just a little pain, this is taking my life. That. I might have overestimated your strength. Chapter 67. I'm finished. That was the thought in Yi Xian's mind right now, because he felt like his entire body was about to collapse. Right at this moment, the pagoda between his brows suddenly vanished. At the same time, a strand of earthen yellow energy enveloped his body. Bang! Yi Xian's body shook violently. In the blink of an eye, countless strands of earthen yellow energy converged incessantly from all directions. And then they moved along his legs and converged into his body. As the energy surged into his body, his cracked body actually started to heal slowly. Repair. Obviously, the Dao Laws were helping him repair his body. Even though the Dao Laws were helping him repair his body, the waves of intense pain that came from his body still made Yi Xian feel like death was better than living. Because at that moment, he'd felt like his body was being pulled by an army, and the feeling of being torn apart had almost caused him to faint. Fortunately, he'd forcefully endured it. Otherwise, the consequences of fainting at a time like this would be extremely severe. Just like that, Yi Xian's body started to heal slowly. Around 2 hours later, the cracked skin all over Yi Xian's body had healed completely. Moreover, there was even a faint golden glow to his skin. Yi Xian slowly opened his eyes. He glanced at his body and instinctively clenched his fists. Hiss! Countless strands of golden energy suddenly appeared around him. The golden energy was like golden armor, and it seemed extremely dazzling. What's this? Yi Xian was slightly stunned. The mysterious woman's voice resounded. The armor of the earth is condensed from the energy of the earth. You can condense this armor and obtain the energy of the earth by stepping on the ground. However, with your current cultivation, you can only persist for an hour at most. If you don't give up on the energy of the earth and the armor of the earth within that hour, then you'll suffer backlash. Armor of the earth? The energy of the earth? Yi Xian was stunned, and then he said, Senior, is that Dao Law mine now? The mysterious woman said, Dream on. You weren't the one who condensed this Dao Law, and you're merely borrowing it now. Moreover, the level of the Dao Law isn't something that you can comprehend right now. Borrowing it now will be extremely beneficial to your comprehension of the Dao Law in the future. Right now you only need to do 3 things. First, cultivate your sword. Second, cultivate your martial arts. Third, search for swords to devour. As for this Dao Law, it's too strong. You can only unleash 20% of its power at most. However, this is enough for you to use for now. Yi Xian nodded, then looked at the golden armor on his body. Senior, although I'm only in the Qi Change realm now, I should be able to easily defeat soaring realm experts, right? The mysterious woman said, what you need to think about right now is whether or not you can easily defeat a nether passage realm expert, not a levitation realm expert. Do you understand? Nether passage realm? Yi Xian's face stiffened, and he hesitated for a moment before he said, surmount 2 realms? Isn't that too exaggerated? Exaggerated? The mysterious woman said coldly, in my era, those who couldn't kill their opponents 2 levels higher would be embarrassed to call themselves geniuses. Yi Xian was speechless. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman said, I've helped you restrain that woman in black earlier, and I've also helped you suppress the power of the Tao Law. I'm very tired now, and I need to rest for a while. Otherwise, I won't have enough energy to suppress this. In any case, you can only rely on yourself in the future. If you encounter any Tao Law in the future, this pagoda will notify you. Yi Xian said in a low voice, Senior, are you all right? The mysterious woman said indifferently, don't worry about me. Even if you and everyone else in this pagoda who's been suppressed die, I won't die. I just need to rest. Take good care of yourself. I don't want you to be dead the next time I wake up. Also, the World Prison Pagoda can be used against enemies, but I don't want you to activate it. Every time you activate it, the seals within the pagoda will loosen slightly. Take it easy. Moreover, even though you're the pagoda master, you can't control this pagoda right now. So don't activate it unless you have no other choice. Otherwise, the pagoda's backlash might cause you to suffer a fate worse than death. Yi Xian hesitated for a moment, and then said, Senior, why do I feel like you're saying your last words? Are you really all right? The mysterious woman said, do you want to know why the flowers are so red? Yi Xian. Meanwhile, the mysterious woman said, one last thing. The fellow on the 2nd level doesn't have any killing intent towards you, and it just wants to come out. However, you don't have the ability to let it out yet. Even if you do, you have to consider it carefully. Even though that fellow has been suppressed for so many years, and its strength has been greatly weakened, it's still not something you can fight against right now. It will hit me from time to time. Yi Xian suddenly said in an aggrieved tone. It often hits people for no reason. The mysterious woman said indifferently. There are many times when I want to beat you to death. Yi Xian. The mysterious woman said again. Kid, live well. With that, the mysterious woman went completely silent. Yi Xian's face darkened. Obviously, the mysterious woman had fallen into a deep sleep. Yi Xian took a deep breath. Now he could only rely on himself. As if he had thought of something, he slowly closed his eyes. In the next moment, a tiny golden earth character appeared between his brows. Tao Law. He clenched his fists tightly. In an instant, boundless power of the earth appeared beneath his feet. The power of the earth gathered towards him like a tidal wave. In an instant, a golden armor appeared on his body. Earth armor. He lightly touched the earth armor on his body. It was so thick that it could definitely block an attack from a peak nether passage realm expert, and it could even block the black-robed woman's lightning. Of course, he wasn't confident, and even if he could block it, he would probably be crippled. Other than the earth armor, he also felt a powerful force in his body. After a moment of thought, Yi Xian left the ground and came to the surface. He looked around, then clenched his fists again. In an instant, a powerful earth energy gathered around his body. After a moment of silence, he suddenly punched the ground. Fist collapse. He used all his strength in this punch. Other than the earth energy in his body, there was also fist momentum and battle intent. This punch fell. Boom. With him as the center, the ground within 100 feet of him directly collapsed. Dust and gravel flew in all directions, and the surroundings were a mess. After 2 breaths, a giant pit nearly half a foot deep appeared around Yi Xian. Not only that, but the ground dozens of feet away gradually cracked. The power of one punch was so strong. Yi Xian looked at his right hand with excitement in his eyes. His punch definitely had the power of a low-grade earth rank martial technique. It could be said that his punch was now second only to his life and death with one sword. Life and death with one sword had reached a new height after his sword reached the Sword of Light. To put it simply, he could do anything under the Nether Passage realm now. No, he could even do anything in the Nether Passage realm. Yi Xian retracted the earth energy, chuckled, and quickly walked into the distance. At this moment, his steps were like the wind. Soon he returned to Two Realm City. At this moment, there were experts flying in the sky above Two Realm City. What was going on? Yi Xian frowned and hurriedly entered the city. As soon as he entered, Jiang Jiu appeared in front of him with a group of people. Jiang Jiu sized him up. Are you all right? Yi Xian shook his head. I'm fine. Oh right, what happened in Two Realm City? Jiang Jiu said solemnly. Let's go back and talk. Finished speaking, she brought Yi Xian back to her tent. Inside the tent, Jiang Jiu said solemnly. Those auras above the city are experts from the Drunken Immortal Inn. According to my intelligence, the experts from the Drunken Immortal Inn seem to have lost track of that black-robed man. So, that high-grade earth rank martial technique might not be recovered. Yi Xian said solemnly. The Drunken Immortal Inn should compensate you, right? Jiang Jiu said indifferently. Who knows? At this moment, a voice came from outside the tent. Your Highness, Steward Su of the Drunken Immortal Inn requests an audience. Inside the tent, Jiang Jiu said with a smile. Whether or not they will compensate, we will know soon. Saying this, she turned to look outside the tent. Invite him in. Soon Su Qing walked into the tent. When she saw that Yi Xian was also there, she was slightly startled, and then nodded lightly as a greeting. Su Qing walked in front of Jiang Jiu and bowed slightly. Your Highness, I came today for that high-grade earth rank martial technique. Jiang Jiu said with a smile. Why, the Drunken Immortal Inn has recovered that high-grade earth rank martial technique. Su Qing's expression was rather unnatural, and she shook her head. I'm sorry, we weren't able to recover it. However, we've already sent out 3 Divine Convergence Realm experts, and I believe it won't be long before. What if we can't recover it? Jiang Jiu suddenly interrupted Su Qing. Su Qing said in a low voice. My Drunken Immortal Inn will definitely be able to recover it. 9th Princess, please believe us. Jiang Jiu shook his head and interrupted Su Qing. Steward Su, what if we can't recover it? Su Qing went silent for a moment, and then she said, if we can't recover it, then my Drunken Immortal Inn will compensate your Highness. Jiang Jiu smiled when he heard this. How much? Su Qing went silent for a moment, and then she said, 10 million gold coins. As soon as these words were spoken, the nearby Yi Xian was stunned. On the other hand, Jiang Jiu's expression instantly turned cold. 10 million gold coins? Steward Su, are you joking with me? Su Qing's expression was indifferent. Your Highness, that's the price given to me by the higher-ups. Of course, it's slightly unfair to your Highness. So, the higher-ups said that my Drunken Immortal Inn will take good care of the 9th Princess while you're in Twin World City. Jiang Jiu stood up and walked over to Su Qing. That high-grade earth rank martial technique is worth 50 million gold coins. Yet you're only willing to compensate me 10 million? Do you think my Jiang country's imperial family is easy to bully? Su Qing looked Jiang Jiu in the eyes. Your Highness, this is already the best outcome. Her tone carried a threatening tone. Jiang Jiu's eyes narrowed slightly while killing intent arose within them. On the other hand, Su Qing's expression was indifferent and fearless. The Drunken Immortal Inn had never feared anyone in the Jiang country. Right at this moment, Yi Xian spoke abruptly. Isn't it a little too unreasonable for the Drunken Immortal Inn to do this? Su Qing swiftly turned to look at Yi Xian and spoke coldly. Unreasonable? My Drunken Immortal Inn is already being very reasonable by compensating you. As she spoke, she glanced coldly at Jiang Jiu. Your Highness, farewell. As soon as she finished speaking, she turned around and left. Jiang Jiu's expression was extremely unsightly, and she didn't conceal the killing intent in her eyes at all. Because the Drunken Immortal Inn was obviously taking advantage of its strength to bully others. But she couldn't make a move against them. She really couldn't afford to offend the Drunken Immortal Inn, nor could she shed all pretenses with the Drunken Immortal Inn. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly appeared before Su Qing. and he said with a serious expression, I feel that all of you should be reasonable. All of you lost something that's worth 50 million gold coins, yet you're only paying 10 million. This is truly inexcusable. Su Qing took a step forward and looked Yi Xian in the eyes. We're not compensating a single cent, so what can you do? Yi Xian said in a low voice, You're taking advantage of your strength to bully others. Su Qing sneered. My drunken immortal in is taking advantage of its strength to bully others. You're not convinced? Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly drew the golden saber on his waist, and he swiftly slashed at Su Qing. Hiss! Su Qing's entire arm flew into the air. Fresh blood sprayed. The nearby Jiangjiu was stunned. Meanwhile, Yi Xian held the golden saber against Su Qing's neck. I'm fucking not convinced. As he spoke, the golden saber in his hand suddenly moved forward. Hiss! Chapter 68. The tent fell silent. In front of Yi Xian, Su Qing stared fixedly at Yi Xian. Her face was pale, and besides savagery in her eyes, there was a trace of disbelief. Because she really hadn't expected that this person would dare to attack her. The drunken immortal in was standing behind her. On the other side, Jiangjiu's eyes had a trace of disbelief as well, because she hadn't expected that Yi Xian would attack her. The drunken immortal in was standing behind this woman. I'm in trouble. That was the first thought in Jiangjiu's mind. Meanwhile, Su Qing spoke fiercely. Do you know what you've done? Yi Xian's golden saber moved forward, and a trace of fresh blood instantly dripped down from his golden saber. Yi Xian's face was expressionless. Didn't you ask me if I was convinced? My answer is, I'm not. Su Qing turned to glance at Jiangjiu. Your Highness Ninth, is this one of yours? Is your imperial family going to declare war on my drunken immortal in? Jiangjiu walked over to Yi Xian, and she looked at Yi Xian. Do you know what you've done? Yi Xian nodded. Jiangjiu spoke solemnly. The consequences are very severe. Yi Xian spoke softly. I can't bear to see her use her power to bully you. Jiangjiu just stared at Yi Xian. But do you know? I might have to pay a huge price to settle this matter. I might not even be able to settle it. Yi Xian spoke solemnly. I'll settle it. Jiangjiu suddenly spoke angrily. You'll settle it? How will you settle it? If the drunken immortal and wants to kill you, it'll be as easy as crushing an ant. Su Qing sneered, and was about to speak when Jiangjiu suddenly slapped her palm against Su Qing's throat. Crack! Blood sprayed from Su Qing's mouth, and she fell to the ground. As she fell, Su Qing's eyes were filled with disbelief. Yi Xian was stunned as well. He hadn't expected that Jiangjiu would suddenly kill Su Qing. Right at this moment, Jiangjiu suddenly said, Remember, this person was killed by me. It has nothing to do with you. In a while, immediately leave Two Realm City and return to Songlan Academy. Take it as if you never came to Two Realm City. With that, she turned around and walked out of the tent. Yi Xian suddenly said, What are you going to do? Jiangjiu turned to glare at him. Don't worry about what I do. Leave Two Realm City now, understand? With that, she turned and left the tent. Inside the tent, Yi Xian glanced at Su Qing's corpse on the ground inside. MIF * king going against the drunken immortal brothel? Outside the tent. Jiangjiu had only taken a few steps out of the tent when an invisible pressure appeared above the camp. Very quickly, a black-robed elder appeared not far from Jiangjiu. At the same time, an old man and 3 men in black appeared behind Jiangjiu. Jiangjiu glanced at the black-robed old man. You should be the newly appointed 9th floor master of the Drunken Immortal Inn, right? The previous floor master of the Drunken Immortal Inn had suddenly disappeared. And then the Drunken Immortal Inn had changed to a new floor master. She had also heard of this news. The black-robed old man said indifferently. It is indeed the old man. With that, he glanced at the tent behind Jiangjiu. Steward Su's soul tablet has shattered. I think she should have. I killed her. Jiangjiu suddenly said. Hearing this, the black-robed old man's eyes instantly narrowed. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Jiangjiu walked in front of the black-robed old man. Previously, I put up an Earth upper-grade martial skill for auction at the Drunken Immortal Inn. That Earth upper-grade martial skill was snatched away, and Steward Su came to me and told me that the drunken immortal Inn did not want to compensate a single cent. She even said that the drunken immortal Inn wanted to take advantage of their power to bully others, so I killed her. The black-robed old man stared at Jiang Jiu. Your Highness, no matter the reason, you killed someone from my drunken immortal Inn. Jiang Jiu nodded. Yes. However, this matter has nothing to do with the Jiang Kingdom's imperial family. I believe that you don't want to drag the entire imperial family down with you, right? The black-robed old man spoke indifferently. Allow me to be frank, old man. My drunken immortal Inn is not afraid of your imperial family. Jiang Jiu smiled. Then do you intend to start an all-out war with my imperial family? To be honest, you don't have the ability to make such a decision. The black-robed old man gazed at Jiang Jiu for a long time before he said, Your Highness, if you don't give me a satisfactory explanation, then from today onward, the drunken immortal Inn will no longer sell anything to the imperial family. Your imperial family won't be able to buy any of the food, weapons, armor, and so on that you require. Besides that, the high-ranking generals under the 9th Prince's command should be careful. Don't lose their heads as soon as they leave the inn. Jiang Jiu gazed at the black-robed old man, and the black-robed old man gazed back at her. Both their eyes were icy cold. Meanwhile, Jiang Jiu suddenly said, This matter has nothing to do with the imperial family. I'll return to the drunken immortal Inn with you and listen to its orders. Your Highness, you can't. An old man behind Jiang Jiu spoke abruptly. Your Highness, you absolutely can't do that. If you're not here, then the Tang Empire would definitely not have any worries, and they would definitely dispatch their forces to occupy Twin World City. Jiang Jiu raised her right hand to stop the old man, and then she gazed at the black-robed old man. You've already obtained a high-grade Earth-rank martial technique for free. Now that I'm going with you, you've probably profited greatly. Isn't that right? The black-robed old man grinned. Then please return to the drunken immortal Inn with me. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around with the intention of leaving. However, a voice suddenly resounded from behind him. Wait. Along with this voice, a man walked out from within the tent. It was naturally Yi Xian. Jiang Jiu's expression changed slightly when she saw Yi Xian, and then she walked over to Yi Xian and said angrily, What are you doing here? Trying to play the hero? You. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly grabbed her arm. I'll deal with him. As soon as he finished speaking, he pulled Jiang Jiu behind him and walked towards the black-robed old man. Jiang Jiu was stunned. Yi Xian walked over to stand before the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man gazed at Yi Xian with an expressionless face. Yi Xian spoke in a low voice. I have 2 requests. Firstly, you apologize to little Jiu. Secondly, the drunken immortal Inn must compensate us 50 million gold coins. A wisp of ridicule arose on the corners of the old man's mouth. Who do you think you are? You. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly withdrew a violet card and passed it to the black-robed old man. When he saw this violet card, the black-robed old man's expression instantly changed. A violet card. In the drunken immortal Inn, this was an existence that was only inferior to a black card. Moreover, even he, the 9th floor master, didn't have the qualifications to issue such a card. Only floor masters of the 5th floor and above had the qualifications to issue such a violet card. Yi Xian looked straight at the black-robed old man. I want to see the 3rd floor master of the drunken immortal Inn. Inform him to come here right now. The black-robed old man glanced deeply at Yi Xian. Who exactly are you? Why do you have a violet card? You. Yi Xian waved his hand. You don't have the qualifications to speak to me. Ask the 3rd floor master to come here. Everyone behind Yi Xian had astounded expressions on their faces. On the other hand, the expression of the black-robed old man in front of Yi Xian had become unsightly. Since he'd become the 9th floor master, he'd never been humiliated like this. However, he didn't dare to flare up because this person before him possessed a violet card. Moreover, a person who was able to possess a violet card absolutely had an extraordinary identity. The black-robed old man thought for a moment, and then he said, Sir, I think there's definitely some sort of misunderstanding between us. Meanwhile, Yi Xian interrupted the black-robed old man once more. Do you not understand what I'm saying? As he spoke, his gaze turned cold. You don't have the qualifications to speak to me. Ask the third floor master of the drunken immortal inn to come out here. This time, not only did the black-robed old man not get angry, he instead felt even more fearful. Since this young man dared to speak to him in this way, even an idiot would know that the young man had something to rely on. The black-robed old man hesitated for a moment before he chose to crush a black transmission stone in the end. Obviously, he wasn't sure exactly what the young man's background represented, so he didn't dare to make a big deal out of it. Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief in his heart when he heard the black-robed old man call the third floor master. Even though he seemed extremely calm on the surface, he was actually panicking in his heart. Because if the black-robed old man didn't call the third floor master over, then he would really have no other choice. After all, he couldn't tell the black-robed old man that he had a peerless sword immortal standing behind him, right? Even if he did, the third floor master wouldn't believe him. However, if he called the white-haired old man over, then the white-haired old man would definitely believe him. It wasn't long before a white-haired old man suddenly appeared here. It was the third floor master of the drunken immortal inn. Yi Xian heaved another sigh of relief when he saw the old man. He suddenly felt that the old man was actually quite amiable. On the other hand, the white-haired old man was slightly stunned when he saw Yi Xian, and then he walked over to Yi Xian and smiled. Young brother, long time no see. The black-robed old man was stunned when he witnessed this scene. Moreover, Jiang Jiu and the others who stood behind Yi Xian were stunned as well. He's so amiable? Yi Xian didn't act carelessly, and he immediately bowed slightly to the white-haired old man. Greetings, senior. There was a wisp of praise in the white-haired old man's eyes when he saw Yi Xian bow, and he smiled. Is your master well? Yi Xian smiled. He's fine. When he spoke up to hear, his expression suddenly turned serious, and then he bowed slightly to the white-haired old man. Senior, please uphold justice for me. The white-haired old man was slightly stunned while the expression of the black-robed old man behind him was slightly unsightly. The white-haired old man glanced at Yi Xian. Is it related to my immortal indulgence in? Yi Xian nodded. I asked the 9th princess to auction a high-grade earth rank martial technique at the immortal indulgence inn. Unexpectedly, an unexpected event occurred, and that high-grade earth rank martial technique was seized. After that, a manager of the immortal indulgence inn came to tell me that. As he spoke, he recounted what Su Qing and the black-robed old man had said earlier, and he didn't exaggerate anything. The white-haired old man's eyelids instantly twitched when he heard Yi Xian say that my immortal indulgence inn intends to use its strength to bully others. How did Pavilion Master Han die on the cloud vessel all those years ago? Wasn't it because she said those words? Moreover, it was exactly those words that almost caused a peerless sword immortal to vent his rage on the entire immortal indulgence inn. Even though it was resolved in the end, the immortal indulgence inn had lost 2 pavilion masters. Meanwhile, Yi Xian bowed once more to the white-haired old man. Senior, I don't have any other requests, and I just hope that Senior can uphold justice. The white-haired old man fell silent. 50 million gold coins. That wasn't a small amount. But this fellow before me has a sword immortal backing him. When he saw the white-haired old man fall silent, Yi Xian said, Does Senior have any difficulties? If there is, then I don't want these 50 million gold coins. As he spoke, he laughed miserably. Master is right. If one is weak, then anyone will bully you. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and cupped his fists towards Jiang Jiu. 9th princess, until next time. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and left. Jiang Jiu was stunned, and then he said, Where are you going? Yi Xian stopped and said, To look for my master. As soon as he finished speaking, he walked towards the distance with quick strides. Yi Xian walked towards the distance with a sorrowful and indignant expression as if he'd suffered some sort of enormous grievance. However, he was shouting madly in his heart. Geezer, stop me. Hurry up and fucking stop me. Chapter 69. At this moment, Yixian was undoubtedly panicking in his heart. Look for master? What the hell? Just like that, he walked into the distance. Moreover, he walked faster and faster. Cold sweat gradually appeared on his forehead. Right at this moment, the nearby white-haired old man suddenly said, "Young friend, wait a moment." This voice was simply like the sound of nature to Yixian. If the old man didn't stop him, then he would really have no choice but to leave. Yixian stopped and turned around to look at the white-haired old man. The white-haired old man smiled. "Young friend, why bother your master for such a trivial matter?" As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around to look at the black-robed old man. "Go transfer 50 million gold coins over." Everyone here was stunned when they heard the white-haired old man, especially the black-robed old man. He was stunned for a moment before he said, "Third pavilion master, the 50 million. The white-haired old man frowned slightly. "Go quickly." The black-robed old man didn't dare hesitate when he heard this. He glanced at Yixian before he turned around and left. On the other hand, Jiang Jiu glanced at Yixian from nearby, and there was only curiosity in his eyes. The white-haired old man's gaze descended onto Yixian. After he sized up Yixian, a trace of surprise quickly appeared in his eyes, and then he shook his head and smiled. As expected of the sword. When he spoke up to hear, he paused for a moment before he said, "As expected of that senior's disciple. Even within my immortal indulgence there aren't many that can compare to the foundation of your body. Young man, you have a very bright future." Yixian grinned. "Senior, you're too kind." The white-haired old man smiled. "You're neither arrogant nor rash. Your disposition is not bad." Yixian was speechless. Right at this moment, the black-robed old man that had left earlier returned once more, and he passed a golden card to Yixian. "There are 50 million gold coins in this card. Your Excellency can withdraw them from any gold line in Qingzhou, or you can come to my drunken immortal inn." Yixian accepted the gold card and cupped his fists at the white-haired old man. "Thank you." The white-haired old man hesitated for a moment before he said, "Young brother, even though there are many misunderstandings between you and my immortal indulgence they're all just misunderstandings. What do you think?" Yixian said seriously, "Of course." The white-haired old man smiled. "The old man still has something to do, so I'll take my leave first. By the way, please send my regards to your master on behalf of the old man. If possible, you can come to my drunken immortal inn with your master in the future." Yixian bowed slightly. "Sorry for disturbing you." The white-haired old man smiled and said, "You're most welcome. Goodbye." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and vanished on the spot. The black-robed old man followed closely behind him. Somewhere, the black-robed old man suddenly asked, "Third pavilion master, my drunken immortal restaurant will not pay that 50 million. The white-haired old man looked coldly at the black-robed old man. "Not coming out. Do you want to die?" The black-robed old man was shocked in his heart. Exactly where did that young man come from? The white-haired old man closed his eyes slowly. "An existence that my drunken immortal restaurant cannot afford to offend." The black-robed old man revealed shock on his face. "How could that be possible?" The white-haired old man said softly, "Do you know how Tower Master Han and the 8th Pavilion Master perished?" Before the black-robed old man could answer, the white-haired old man continued. "They were killed by that young man's master with a single sword strike. The two of them weren't even able to resist a single sword strike." The black-robed old man was stunned. The white-haired old man turned his head and glanced at the distant horizon. "I originally thought that this youth would join Kuraki Academy, but I never imagined that the group of idiots from Kuraki Academy would actually reject him. Haha, now we'll have a good show to watch." As he spoke, he looked at the black-robed old man. Everything about this young man must not be spread. Just let Kuraki Academy continue courting death. Besides that, rope in this young man well in the kingdom of Jiang in the future. Don't look for trouble with him for no reason. The old man doesn't want to clean up your mess every single day. As he spoke, the white-haired old man's figure trembled, and he directly disappeared into the distant horizon. The black-robed old man remained where he was for a long time. In front of the tent, after the white-haired old man and the black-robed old man left, Jiang Jiu walked in front of Yi Xian. She stared at Yi Xian as if it was her first time seeing Yi Xian. Yi Xian smiled. "What's wrong?" Jiang Jiu said calmly. "Pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger." Yi Xian smiled bitterly. "Actually, this matter is a little." Jiang Jiu suddenly interrupted Yi Xian's words. "There's no need to tell me. As a person, you have to be careful. Do you understand?" Yi Xian smiled. "All right." Hearing this, Jiang Jiu glared at him. "Are you really not going to say it just because I told you not to?" Yi Xian had a dumbfounded look on his face. Seeing Yi Xian's dumbfounded look, Jiang Jiu could not help but snigger. She turned to look at the surroundings. Very soon, the experts and soldiers in the surroundings all retreated. At this moment, Yi Xian handed the gold card in his hand to Jiang Jiu. "For you." Jiang Jiu looked at the gold card in Yi Xian's hand and fell silent. The smile on her face also gradually disappeared. "What's wrong?" Yi Xian asked. Jiang Jiu raised his head to look at Yi Xian. "This is 50 million gold coins." Yi Xian grinned. "I know." To be honest, when I received this card, my hands were trembling a little because I've never held so much money before. Jiang Jiu looked straight at Yi Xian. "You didn't have to give it to me." Yi Xian stuffed the gold card into Jiang Jiu's hand. "Since when did you become so wishy-washy?" Jiang Jiu grinned. "All right." As she said this, she kept the gold card. As if she thought of something, she turned to look to the side. Very soon, an old man appeared beside her. The old man handed an ice blue box to Yi Xian. "Young Master Yi, this is the fire spirit. His Highness sent this old man to the imperial capital to look for His Highness a few days ago. This fire spirit, the imperial family only has one. His Highness requested this fire spirit from His Highness, but, all right." At this moment, Jiang Jiu suddenly said, "What's the point of saying all this?" As she said this, she looked at Yi Xian. "I know your sister's body is sick. This fire spirit should be of help to her. Also, I've already requested Imperial Father to send the best medical grandmaster in the country of Jiang to Tsanglan Academy. I just don't know the result." Yi Xian stowed the blue box away before looking at Jiang Jiu. He said seriously, "Thank you." Jiang Jiu glanced at the gold card in his hand and shook his head with a sigh. "You idiot. You've suffered greatly, yet you still want to thank me. You really are an idiot." Yi Xian. Boom. At this moment, a deafening rumble suddenly rang out from the Two World Mountains. Afterwards, a white mushroom cloud appeared in the sky above the Two World Mountains. Yi Xian and Jiang Jiu turned to look in the direction of the Two World Mountains. Jiang Jiu immediately frowned. "They've already destroyed the restrictions on the spiritual vein. Looks like war is about to begin." "Why?" Yi Xian was confused. Jiang Jiu said softly, "Now that the restrictions on the spiritual vein have been destroyed, the spiritual qi will definitely leak out, and the Two-World City will benefit the most from it. At that time, this place will become a blessed land of feng shui. Many organizations and clans will definitely be willing to come here. And this place won't just be an important place for the military. The Tang Empire definitely won't let this place go." As she said this, she turned to look at Yi Xian. "Let's return to the imperial capital." Yi Xian thought about it before nodding. He did not understand the affairs of the two armies, nor could he provide any help. Moreover, he had been out for quite some time now. It was time for him to return. At this moment, Jiang Jiu said, "Be careful when you return." "What do you mean?" Yi Xian was confused. Jiang Jiu said in a deep voice, "According to what I know, Songmu Academy is investigating you thoroughly. This academy is extremely overbearing, no worse than the drunken immortal establishment. After they find out some details about you, they might stab you in the back." Yi Xian frowned slightly. "Are they that unconfident?" Jiang Jiu shook her head. "It's not that they are unconfident, but to ensure that nothing goes wrong. In the past, there were quite a few geniuses from Tsanglan Academy who disappeared without a trace. In short, be careful." Yi Xian thought about it before nodding. "Understood. Then I'll take my leave. See you in the future." As he said this, he turned and left. Jiang Jiu looked at Yi Xian. Just like that. Until Yi Xian completely disappeared at the end of the horizon. She shook her head and smiled. What an idiot. 4 hours later, Yi Xian boarded the cloud ship to the imperial capital. Because he had a purple card, Yi Xian stayed in a special private room. And it was free. Inside the prison pagoda. On the deck of the cloud ship, Yi Xian looked at Yi Ling's little wooden figurine in his hand. A faint smile on his face. After being out for so many days, the one he was most worried about was undoubtedly Yi Ling. He hadn't been away from Yi Ling for so long. As if he'd thought of something, he took out Enlanxio's little wooden figurine. As he looked at the little wooden figurine in his hand, the smile on his face grew wider. But in next to no time, his smile gradually vanished, and all that was left was seriousness. Enlanxio. He raised his head and looked towards the end of the horizon. After coming into contact with Enlanxio a few times, he naturally knew that Enlanxio's background wasn't simple. Even the drunken immortal abode and Songmu Academy didn't dare to rashly offend someone. So how could her background be ordinary? After a short moment, a wisp of a smile suddenly appeared on the corners of Yi Xian's mouth. I'll come look for you. At that time, I'll beat to death anyone who dares to stop me. Right at this moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared in the sky above the cloud ship. In the next moment, a terrifying pressure accompanied by an illusory giant hand suddenly descended from the sky like a bolt of lightning. The formidable pressure had just appeared, and the cloud ship directly cracked apart. Countless cries of shock resounded incessantly. At the instant he saw the illusory giant hand descend from the deck of the cloud ship, Yi Xian's pupils constricted, and he didn't hesitate in the slightest to jump off the cloud ship. The cloud ship was at least a few hundred meters above the ground. However, he had no choice but to jump at this moment. If he didn't jump, then once that hand descended, then he would die without a doubt. If he jumped, then he might still have a chance to survive. Yi Xian had just jumped off the cloud ship when the entire cloud ship behind him exploded into pieces. On the other hand, Yi Xian fell incessantly towards the bottom of the cloud ship, and his speed grew faster and faster. At the speed he was falling at, he would probably become a pile of mush by the time he reached the ground. Not to mention him, even a nether passage realm demon beast would be smashed into pieces if it fell from above. Chapter 70. What should he do? Yi Xian was expressionless as his mind raced. At this moment, the more flustered he was, the faster he would die. When he was about 100 feet away from the ground, he suddenly took out the Lingxiu sword. He gripped the Lingxiu sword tightly with both hands. Big brother, it's up to you whether I live or die. As soon as he said that, the profound qi in his body surged into the Lingxiu sword in his hands. In the air, Yi Xian roared, "Fly with the sword." However, the Lingxiu sword only trembled slightly and did not fly. Yi Xian did not give up and continued to urge the Lingxiu sword. If he gave up now, he would undoubtedly be courting death. Sword kinesis. Qi kinesis. Kinesis with qi. Yi Xian's thoughts raced. A moment later he suddenly released his hands, and the sword in his hands turned into a sword gleam that shot out like lightning. Seeing this, Yi Xian was ecstatic. However, the Lingxiu sword had no intention of returning. Instead, it shot into the distance. Yi Xian was shocked and hurriedly said, "Come back." As soon as he said that, he closed his eyes slowly. At this moment, he felt a certain connection between himself and the Lingxiu sword. He hurriedly urged the qi in his body. When he was about 100 feet away from the ground, the Lingxiu sword suddenly flew back to him like a bolt of lightning. He hurriedly gripped the Lingxiu sword with both hands. At this moment, he was only a few feet away from the ground. Just as he was about to land on the ground, the Lingxiu sword suddenly trembled violently. In the blink of an eye, it suddenly dragged Yi Xian up into the sky. However, before it could travel a few feet, it suddenly fell from the sky with Yi Xian. Very quickly on the ground, bam! Yi Xian crashed onto the ground with the sword. The entire ground shook violently and dust rose into the sky. However, Yi Xian was laughing maniacally. Because the exquisite sword had dragged him up, the force of his fall from the sky had been completely dissipated. Falling from a height of over 100 feet, with the toughness of his body, he could completely withstand it. Although it was a little uncomfortable, it wasn't fatal. Most importantly, at this critical moment of life and death, he'd actually accidentally comprehended the art of sword control. This was something he had comprehended himself. Sword kinesis. Using qi to control the sword. After laughing for a while, Yi Xian seemed to have thought of something. He hurriedly crawled up from the ground and ran towards the distance. It didn't take long for him to arrive in a dense forest, and then he hit himself on a tree. Yi Xian raised his head to look at the horizon, his eyes gradually turning cold. Why would someone sneak attack the drunken immortal in's cloud ship? Who would dare to do this? At this moment, the first place he thought of was Kuraki Academy. In the entire kingdom of Jiang, only Kuraki Academy dared to do this. But why would Kuraki Academy do this? Right at this moment, an aura suddenly appeared in the distance. Yi Xian's expression changed slightly when he noticed this, and he hurriedly leaped down from the tree and lay flat on the ground. At this moment, a tiny earth character had appeared between his brows. The Tao laws. Yi Xian lay flat on the ground. At this moment, he utilized the energy of the earth to seem as if he'd fused with the earth, and his aura was concealed by the aura of the earth. An old man and a woman appeared not too far away from him. A savage expression instantly appeared on Yi Xian's face when he saw them. He knew them. They were the vice dean of Kuraki Academy, Emo Song and Bei Chun. Emo Song glanced at the surroundings, and then he said in a low voice, "Why isn't his corpse here?" Bei Chun said solemnly, "Master, there's no need for you to do this at all. I'm confident in killing him in the future battles." Emo Song shook his head. "You don't know. According to our investigations, he's not simple at all. Not only is he a quasi-martial grandmaster, but he's also a great swordsman. Moreover, rumor has it that he killed a manager of the Drunken Immortal Inn on the Cloud ship. However, the Drunken Immortal Inn didn't pursue the matter. He was already able to fight against you while at Qi-controlling realm in the Two World Mountains, but the strength he displayed in the imperial capital couldn't compare to you at all. In such a short period of time, his strength has grown to such a level." When he reached there, he looked at Bei Chun and said softly, "It's not that I don't believe you, but our Kuraki Academy must win this battle. We can't afford to make any mistakes. We must maintain the reputation of Kuraki Academy for 1,000 years." Bei Chun fell silent and said nothing. Emo Song continued, "Don't overthink it. The Academy has absolute confidence in you and Fenju. It's just that this Yi Xian really is a little mysterious. He might really be the legendary sword physique. If we allow him to continue developing, he'll definitely become a great enemy of our Kuraki Academy in the future. This time, he's come out alone, and that Guoshuren has already left the country of Jiang. Now is the time to kill him. In order to prevent any future troubles, I can only do this." Bei Chun hesitated for a moment before saying, "Master, if this gets out..." Emo Song sneered. "Get out? Firstly, no one knows about this. Even if some people guess that it was done by our Kuraki Academy, who would dare to accuse us? Who would dare? In the country of Jiang, no one would dare. In a month or so, the world will completely forget about Yi Xian." Bei Chun said nothing else. Emo Song glanced around and frowned. "Why isn't there his corpse?" Bei Chun looked around and said, "He's only at the Qi-resisting realm. Falling from such a high height, there's no way he could have survived. Perhaps he was directly torn to pieces in midair." Emo Song nodded. "That's true. Forget it. Let's not look for his corpse. Let's return to the Imperial City." Fenju has already returned to the Imperial City. With his personality, the students of Tsonglan Academy will probably experience what it means to live a life worse than death. Unfortunately, this Yi Xian is already dead. Otherwise, we could let Fenju properly punish him. After saying that, he and Bei Chun turned around and disappeared not far away. On the other side, Yi Xian's expression was extremely cold. As expected, it was Kuraki Academy's doing. Obviously, the strength he displayed had already caused Kuraki Academy to be a little afraid. Playing dirty, Yi Xian jumped to the ground and raised his head to look. His eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. Wait for this daddy's return, just you wait. He was naturally furious in his heart. This time, if he hadn't comprehended sword manipulation with chi at the critical moment of life and death, he would probably be a pile of minced meat by now. But this time, it also gave him a wake-up call. These forces in the Imperial City, compared to those small forces in Azure City, might be even more despicable and shameless. These aristocratic academies, in order to achieve their goals, would definitely do anything. Yi Xian withdrew his thoughts. After resting for a while, he got up and ran towards Two Realms City. Naturally, he couldn't just run to the Imperial City like this. It was simply too far. By the time he reached the Imperial City, it would probably be half a month later. In the mountain range, Yi Xian madly ran all the way. In front of him was the floating elegant spirit sword. He discovered that he still couldn't fly with the sword. He felt a little powerless. He didn't know what he was missing, but he could fly with the sword. In the future, he could already fly with the sword. To him, this was another killing move, and a very powerful one at that. As for the sword, he could only put it aside for now. Two Realms City. Within Jiangjiu's tent, an old man suddenly entered the tent, and the old man said in a low voice, "Your Highness, something has happened to young Master Ye's cloud ship." Hearing this, Jiangjiu suddenly raised her head to look at the old man. "What do you mean?" The old man said in a low voice, "The cloud ship suddenly shattered. I don't know the exact reason for it. However, it should be man-made." "He's still." Jiangjiu suddenly interrupted the old man. "What about him?" The old man hesitated for a moment, and then he shook his head. "I don't know if he's dead or alive. However, falling from such a height." Bang! The table before Jiangjiu shattered with a bang, and her expression was extremely savage. "Damned Karaki Academy. Damn it." The old man glanced at Jiangjiu. "Your Highness." Jiangjiu suddenly raised her head to look at him. "Send out a group of 100 cavalrymen. You must find him, definitely." The old man nodded, and then he turned around and left. Within the tent, Jiangjiu took out that golden card. Looking at the golden card in her hand, her expression was incomparably cold. "If you die, I will definitely make Karaki Academy pay the price in the future. I definitely will." After saying this, she got up and walked out of the tent. She raised her head to look at the distant horizon. "No, you can't die. You have to live well for me." She clenched her right hand tightly, and her nails had already pierced into her palm. At night, Yi Xian quietly returned to Two Realms City. At this time, he had already put on a black robe, and his appearance was completely concealed. He did not go to find Jiangjiu. For the sake of safety, the current him did not want to expose himself. He once again went to the Drunken Immortal restaurant, and then secretly bought a cloud ship ticket. An hour later, a cloud ship slowly rose from within Two Realms City. Soon after, it disappeared into the distant night. On the cloud ship, in an ordinary private room, after Yi Xian locked the door from the inside, he entered the prison pagoda, practicing the sword. This time, he wasn't practicing sword techniques, but using chi to control the sword. Within the first level of the prison pagoda, a sword was ceaselessly flickering as it flew about. However, its flight was very messy, and it would sometimes fall or stop halfway through its flight. Obviously, he was still not very familiar with this method of controlling the sword. However, this was not a problem to him. If he was not familiar with it, he would become familiar with it with more practice. A day and a half later, the cloud ship was getting closer and closer to the imperial capital. On the other hand, Yi Xian still did not leave the pagoda, and he was still cultivating madly. His natural talent and comprehension were both good, and he had gradually grasped a bit of the knocking door. And the spirit elegant sword was flying more and more smoothly. 4 hours later, the cloud ship was getting closer and closer to the imperial capital, and the outline of the imperial capital could already be seen from the cloud ship. The imperial capital, Songlan Academy, in front of Songlan Hall. Yi Ling sat on the stone steps, and she held a small figure in her hand. This small figure was Yi Xian. As she looked, Yi Ling sighed softly. She raised her head and looked down the mountain in the distance. "Brother, I miss you so much." Every day, she would come here and sit for 2 hours waiting for Yi Xian. Right at this moment, Jianji suddenly came to Yi Ling's side. Yi Ling raised her head and looked at Jianji. Sister Ji, are you hungry again? Jianji shook her head. She sat beside Yi Ling and glanced at the wooden figure in Yi Ling's hand. Your brother? Yi Ling nodded her little head. My brother carved it. It's very handsome, right? Jianji was about to speak when she suddenly raised her head and looked not far away. There a man and 10 people were slowly walking over. This man and 10 people were all students of Kuraki Academy, and when Jianji saw the man in the lead, her expression instantly changed. Fenju. The man in front of her was one of the 2 great monsters of Kuraki Academy, Fenju. Fenju glanced at Jianji. Where is Yi Xian? Jianji slowly stood up. He's not here. Fenju narrowed his eyes. I'm not in the imperial capital, and your Tsanglan Academy's people killed my Kuraki Academy students. Who gave you the guts? As his voice fell, he suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Chi. The ground in front of Jianji directly split open. Jianji pulled out his blade and slashed. Bang. Following an explosion, Jianji's entire body was directly knocked back into the Great Hall. Fenju was about to continue, but at this time, a Kuraki Academy student behind him suddenly pointed at the nearby Yi Ling. Senior Fenju, this person is that Yi Xian's little sister. His little sister is here, so he must be hiding. Hearing this, Fenju turned his head to look at Yi Ling. Yi Ling hurriedly turned around and ran. But at this time, Fenju suddenly appeared in front of Yi Ling. He grabbed Yi Ling's hair and forcibly lifted Yi Ling up. Yi Ling was in so much pain that tears immediately flowed down. Inside the Great Hall, Jianji suddenly leaped up and slashed towards Fenju. This slash directly tore through the air. But very quickly Jianji suddenly stopped and retreated back to where she stood. Because in front of her, Fenju lifted Yi Ling up and blocked in front of her. Jianji stared at Fenju. Despicable. Despicable. Fenju sneered. Don't think that I'm afraid of you. I just don't want to kill you. Remember, make Yi Xian scram to Kuraki Academy within 2 hours to die. Otherwise, there will be one more corpse on Song Mountain's Xiao Dao. After saying that, he carried Yi Ling and turned to leave. Behind Fenju, Jianji suddenly said coldly. Using a little girl as a threat, aren't you afraid that Kuraki Academy will become the laughingstock of the world? Laughingstock? Fenju turned his head and coldly looked at Jianji. In this Jiang country, who dares to laugh at my Kuraki Academy? Jianji's eyes did not conceal the killing intent in the slightest. As a man, don't you feel that using this kind of method is too despicable? The corner of Fenju's mouth curled into a hint of ridicule. As a man, I naturally do things unscrupulously. I won't waste words with you. Remember, within 2 hours, if that Yi Xian who killed my Kuraki Academy students doesn't come to Tsang Mountain's Xiao Dao, then let him collect his sister's corpse. He killed my Kuraki Academy's students. If he doesn't pay with his life, then I'll kill his sister. After saying that, he turned around and left with Yi Ling. Inside the hall, Jianji hurriedly crushed a sound transmission stone. Not long after Fenju and the others brought Yi Ling away, a figure suddenly ran up the mountain from the foot of the mountain. The person who came was precisely Yi Xian. Yi Xian madly ran all the way and laughed. Ling, our old brother is back. Chapter 71. After not seeing his sister for a long time, Yi Xian's heart was naturally incomparably happy to return. He who had never been separated from his sister for so long, could be said to have missed her immensely. Right now he only wanted to see Yi Ling as soon as possible. In the blink of an eye, Yi Xian rushed from the bottom of the mountain to the top. After arriving at the top, Yi Xian was stunned because he did not see Yi Ling. His voice was very loud, enough to be heard by the entire Mount Azure below. Normally, his sister should have heard it. But Yi Ling did not come out. Something happened? Yi Xian's heart sank. He was about to enter the hall when Jianji suddenly walked out. Jianji glanced at Yi Xian. Something happened to her. Hearing this, Wang. A sword cry suddenly resounded from within Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian stared at Jianji. Where is she? Killing intent. Yi Xian's eyes did not conceal the killing intent. This killing intent caused Jianji to frown. You have to calm down, you. At this moment, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of her. In the next moment, a sword was directly pressed against her forehead as he said fiercely, I asked you, where is she? His voice was trembling. Clearly, he was on the verge of exploding with rage. Not only that, the sword in his hand was also violently trembling. Jianji glanced at Yi Xian, then said, Song Mountain Xiao Dao, Fenju asked you to go. I have already sent the order to grandfather, he will be back soon, you. Before she finished speaking, Yi Xian had already turned and rushed down the mountain. Don't be rash. Jianji hurriedly said behind him. And Yi Xian had already disappeared down the mountain. Seeing this scene, Jianji's expression instantly changed. She knew something was going to happen. She hurriedly crushed another sound transmission stone and rushed down as well. At the bottom of the mountain, Yi Xian madly ran all the way. His eyes were bloodshot, and his face was ferocious and crazy. His sister was his only sore spot in this life. For his sister he would do anything. Along the way, many people were attracted by Yi Xian. When they saw Yi Xian, some people recognized him. That's Yi Xian. What happened to him? I think he's going to Karaki Academy? No way. Is he courting death? Let's go and take a look. Soon, some of the busybodies on the street followed them. Yi Xian sprinted all the way. Soon, he arrived at the foot of Mount Karaki. At the foot of the Xiao Dao and Song Mountain, Yiling was tied with a black rope and hung on a log. Her face was pale, and she looked especially helpless and scared. When Yi Xian arrived at the foot of the Xiao Dao and Song Mountain, and saw Yiling, he froze on the spot. At this moment, his mind was completely blank. At this moment, Yiling also saw Yi Xian. At this moment, her tears flowed down. Brother, hurry, hurry and run. Yi Xian slowly closed his eyes. At the corners of his eyes, 2 streams of clear liquid slowly flowed down. At this moment, several Karaki Academy students suddenly arrived in front of Yi Xian. One of them was about to speak when suddenly, a sword flew out from Yi Xian's body. The elegant spirit sword slashed down, and the body of the student in front of Yi Xian was directly split in half. Blood and organs instantly splattered all over the ground. Seeing this scene, everyone in the surroundings was stunned. Especially those who had come to watch the show. What was Yi Xian doing? Was he here to kill? After he killed one of the Karaki Academy students, Yi Xian didn't stop there. He held the elegant spirit sword and stabbed forward swiftly. The expression of one of the Karaki Academy students changed drastically, and he took a step back. However, right at this moment, the sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly flew out from his grasp. Hiss! The head of the man who just retreated fell off his neck. Yi Xian suddenly appeared behind the headless student Karaki. He gripped his right hand to the right, and with this grip, he managed to grab hold of the spirit elegant sword. In the next moment, he held the sword and made a horizontal slash. Hiss! A ray of light flashed, and then the remaining Karaki Academy student was directly slashed into 2 at the waist. Swordsman! This fellow is the master swordsman. Someone exclaimed with shock. The master swordsman. As soon as these words were spoken, the surroundings erupted into an uproar. Swordsmen were extremely rare in the Jiang Kingdom. It wasn't that they didn't exist, but they were extremely rare. Moreover, many people really yearned to be swordsmen. To be able to roam the world with a sword in hand was a beautiful fantasy in the hearts of many. At this moment, when they saw that Yi Xian was actually a master swordsman, many people in the surroundings instantly felt slightly excited. At this moment, they'd forgotten about the mysterious Karaki Academy and Songlan Academy, and they merely wanted to watch a swordsman kill. On the other hand, news of Yi Xian's arrival at Karaki Academy had spread. In next to no time, countless people had rushed over to Grey Mountain, and it didn't take long for more and more people to gather at the foot of Grey Mountain. In the distance, Yi Xian had already killed several students from Karaki Academy in an instant. All of them were instant kills. Right at this moment, a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. It was one of the 3 vice deans of Karaki Academy, Li Xiu. Li Xiu coldly looked at Yi Xian. You openly came to my Karaki Academy to kill people, you. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly pointed his sword at Li Xiu and fiercely said, Kill people? Wasn't it your Karaki Academy's students who asked me to come? I'm here. Where are your people? As he spoke, he suddenly chopped off the head of a wailing Karaki Academy student in front of him. Chi. Blood splattered all over Yi Xian's body. Yi Xian raised his head to look at Li Xiu and angrily roared. This number is too little. How can it be enough for me to kill? Where are the students of Karaki Academy? Bring more of them. Li Xiu stared fixedly at Yi Xian. His eyes were filled with killing intent. And just as he was about to make a move, a voice suddenly sounded from the side. TSK, Karaki Academy students invited someone to a duel, just to bully the weak? Li Xiu suddenly turned his head to look into the distance. Not far away, an old man slowly pushed a black-robed girl in a wheelchair. The black-robed girl's eyes were closed, and the words just now were precisely spoken by her. Li Xiu stared fixedly at the black-robed girl. But the black-robed girl was not the least bit afraid. Songlan Academy used this youth's sister to invite him here. What, just to bully the weak? Or is it that Karaki Academy's younger generation has no one left? Hearing the black-robed girl's words, many people in the arena immediately began to discuss spiritedly. And when many people looked at Li Xiu, their gazes were already somewhat strange. Bullying the weak? This was absolutely shameful. Right at this moment, a figure suddenly flashed down from Song Mountain's Xiaodao in the distance, and behind this figure, there were still several tens of Karaki Academy students. Very quickly, the figure in the lead arrived not far in front of Yi Xian. This person was precisely Fenju. And behind Fenju, there was also a large group of Karaki Academy students. Fenju glanced at Yi Xian, then turned to look at the nearby Li Xiu. Vice Dean, why do you need to take action against this person? It's enough for me to come. Li Xiu slightly nodded. Don't underestimate the enemy. The corner of Fenju's mouth slightly raised, and he turned to look at Yi Xian. I didn't think that you would really come to save your sister. It seems like you still have some guts, you. Right at this moment, Yi Xian suddenly disappeared from where he stood. Seeing this scene, Fenju's expression slightly changed. His response was also extremely fast, and when Yi Xian's sword arrived in front of him, his body flashed and at the same time his right hand slashed horizontally towards Yi Xian's waist. Chi. A wind blade flashed out from his palm, and this wind blade was directly aimed at the fatal position of Yi Xian's abdomen. Yi Xian held his sword and slashed downwards with a reverse grip. Boom. That wind blade was directly shattered by this one slash. And at this time, Fenju suddenly appeared in front of Yi Xian. And in an instant, countless wind blades slashed towards Yi Xian from all directions. Yi Xian fiercely stomped on the ground. His body left the ground, and then he slashed downwards with his sword. One slash to decide life and death. The moment this slash appeared, the nearby Li Xiu's expression immediately changed greatly, because the might of this slash had already completely exceeded the scope of the qi-resisting realm. Fenju's expression also slightly changed. Evidently, he also did not expect that this slash of Yi Xian's would be so terrifying. If Yi Xian's previous slash was only considered not bad, then this slash right now could destroy the heavens and exterminate the earth. The contrast was too great, and Fenju was actually stunned for a moment, but he quickly regained his senses. Immediately after, his hands suddenly clasped together, and in an instant, a gust of violent wind appeared in his surroundings. Very quickly, these violent winds formed into wind blades that shot towards Yi Xian's slash. However, when Yi Xian's sword slashed downwards, those wind blades were instantly shattered. The sword brought along a sword beam as it came straight down. Boom. Fenju's entire body was instantly blasted 30 meters away. And the moment he stopped, Yi Xian once again appeared in front of him, and then he slashed downwards once again. It was still one slash to decide life and death. This slash was even stronger than the previous slash, and when the sword descended, it was as if it was going to split the earth apart. Fenju's pupils slightly shrunk, and his right foot fiercely stomped on the ground. Bang! Borrowing the force from the ground, his entire body explosively retreated backwards, and Yi Xian's sword still descended. Boom! The entire ground instantly ruptured, and the powerful force and sword beam directly sent Fenju flying. When Fenju smashed onto the ground, Yi Xian suddenly appeared in front of him, and fiercely slashed downwards towards Fenju while holding the sword with both hands. And at this moment, a figure rushed towards Yi Xian from the side. It was another student of Karaki Academy. Seeing this scene, the entire arena was in an uproar. It was actually not a one-on-one battle. Yi Xian suddenly turned his head, and in the next moment he abruptly changed the stance of his sword, and slashed horizontally towards the right. Boom! That student who had just rushed in front of him was instantly sent flying by this slash, and the moment that student was sent flying, the sword in Yi Xian's hand suddenly flew out and slashed out. Chi! In the distance, that student's head was instantly sent flying. Fresh blood splattered everywhere, and that head rolled several meters away. Yi Xian beckoned with his right hand, and the spirit elegant sword flew back into his hand, while Fenju, who was in front of him, had already retreated several meters away. At this moment, Fenju's eyes had a serious expression. Not only Fenju, but all of the Karaki Academy students present also had a serious expression in their eyes. Obviously, Yi Xian's strength had already greatly exceeded their expectations. And Yi Xian did not stop, as he directly charged towards Fenju and the group of people in the distance. Everyone present was dumbfounded. Was he going to fight a group by himself? Fenju's expression turned sinister. "I'll do it myself." As his voice fell, he suddenly bent his finger and lightly touched the center of his brows. In the next moment, an aura suddenly swept out from his body. Boom! A formless pressure appeared out of nowhere in the arena. Nether Passage Realm. In the arena, someone cried out in surprise. He must have used some kind of secret technique. Fenju slowly walked towards Yi Xian, and the aura emitted from his body became more and more terrifying. And at this moment, no one noticed that under Yi Xian's feet, a powerful energy was quietly gathering. Very quickly, the two of them got closer and closer. At this moment, Fenju suddenly punched out. When the fist was punched out, the energy contained within was like a volcanic eruption, and the powerful energy forcefully forced Yi Xian to a stop. And at this moment, an earth energy suddenly gathered from the bottom of Yi Xian's feet to his entire body, and in the blink of an eye, Yi Xian's sword slashed down. Boom! The energy released by Fenju instantly shattered, and immediately after, his entire body flew backwards. Just as he landed on the ground, Yi Xian appeared in front of him, and at the same time, Yi Xian's sword slashed down in a straight line. Yi Xian. Right at this moment, Li Xiu's voice suddenly sounded in Yi Xian's mind. "If you kill him, my Karaki Academy will make sure that you and your sister die a horrible death." Suddenly, Yi Xian fiercely slashed down with his sword. Chi. That Fenju's body was directly split in the middle. Yi Xian did not stop there, and instead wielded his sword swiftly. In an instant, that Fenju's corpse was directly turned into countless small pieces, and these small pieces of corpse formed a large Karaki character. Yi Xian raised his head to look at the group of Karaki Academy students in the distance, and roared like a wild beast. "What? All of you have become impotent. Motherf asterisk curs come in F asterisk CK me. P.S. Pleading for tickets. Maybe you guys are a little annoyed seeing me pleading for tickets every day, but there's no other way. Life is forced upon me. In order to live, face and whatnot, I can only temporarily forego it." You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.